Dr. Ethan Cox stares through the sterile observation window at the small Shellyak child curled up in the medical pod, his heart aching at the sight of those damaged sensory appendages, lifeless tendrils that should be actively sensing and interpreting the world around them. The Mars Colony Beta medical facility hums with activity as the aftermath of the pirate raid continues to unfold, but Ethan's focus remains fixed on this one patient, 8-year-old Sella, now orphaned and considered void of status by his own people. The medical readouts confirm what Ethan already suspects: the nerve damage is extensive, the kind of injury that Shellyak society deems an irreversible disability. He reviews the casualty lists again, though he's memorized them by now. Both parents, deceased. No surviving relatives on the transport. No Shellyak willing to claim guardianship of a child they consider irreparably damaged. Dr. Cox. The Shellyak ambassador's translator unit creates perfectly modulated speech. We have completed the formal declaration. The child is now officially void of status under Shellyak law. We will arrange transfer to a basic care facility until maturity. Ethan's fingers trace the neural scan results displayed on his tablet. 5 years of research into human Shellyak biological compatibility flash through his mind, research he'd pursued after losing his own son James in the Terra Prime disaster. There are possibilities here, treatment options the Shellyak haven't considered. Ambassador, Ethan says, straightening his shoulders, I'd like to propose an alternative. The Shellyak sensory appendages twitch, a sign of surprise or possibly dismissal. Our laws regarding the disabled are absolute. I'm aware, but I'm not proposing to challenge Shellyak law. I'm proposing to adopt Sella myself as his human guardian. The declaration sends ripples through the medical bay. The Mars Colonial Administration representative, who has been quietly observing, steps forward. Dr. Cox, are you aware what you're suggesting? There's no precedent for human adoption of a Shellyak child. I'm aware, Ethan responds, his eyes never leaving Sella's small form. I'm also aware that I can help him. The nerve damage can be treated using a combination of human neurological techniques and Shellyak biological principles, and improving human-Shellyak relations through successful cross-species adoption would benefit both our peoples. The ambassador's appendages wave in agitation. You would need to prove capability for care of a Shellyak child's unique physiological needs. Our species has specific requirements. I'm a pediatric surgeon with the Interstellar Medical Corps, specialized in xenobiology. I've treated hundreds of Shellyak patients. I can provide that care, and more importantly, I can give him a chance at recovery that your facilities won't pursue. The colonial administrator studies Ethan's face. We'll need to establish protocols, create legal frameworks. This won't be simple. Nothing worthwhile ever is, Ethan replies, watching as Sella's damaged sensory tendrils twitch slightly in his sleep, a sign that perhaps not all neural function is lost. He thinks of James, of second chances, of bridges built between stars. But I'm ready to do whatever it takes. The paperwork is ready whenever you are, Doctor. Cox, the colonial administrator said, sliding a tablet across the desk. But I want you to understand what you're getting into. Ethan signed the preliminary adoption request, marking the start of a journey more complex than he'd imagined. Within hours, he found himself in the medical center's diagnostic lab, conducting a deep-tissue neural scan of Sella's damaged sensory appendages. The results made his breath catch. The damage extended far beyond the surface level, branching through the delicate neural pathways that made up the core of Shellyak sensory processing. These readings are unprecedented, a voice said behind him. Ethan turned to see Dr. Marcus Warren, his reputation in xenobiology preceding him. The scientist's eyes were fixed on the neural mapping displayed across the lab's holographic interface. The internal degradation pattern suggests cascading synaptic failure, but look here, he pointed to a cluster of active nodes. These pathways are adapting, creating alternate routes. Could we leverage that adaptation? Ethan asked, pulling up his research notes. I've been working on a modified version of the Zhang-Peterson neural regeneration technique. Warren's eyes lit up. The human spinal cord restoration protocol, fascinating approach. We'd need to account for the unique properties of celiac neural tissue, but a sharp knock interrupted them. Sarah Williams, the social worker assigned to Ethan's case, stood in the doorway. Her expression remained neutral as she surveyed the lab, but her voice carried an edge of steel. Dr. Cox, we need to discuss your current work schedule. 16-hour shifts are not compatible with single parenthood. The next weeks blurred into a grueling routine. Mornings in the lab, developing the neural regeneration treatment. Afternoons with Sarah, defending his parental capability. Evenings studying celiac language and customs under Ambassador Kavor's critical gaze. Your pronunciation of the third-tone click sequence remains imprecise, Kavor noted during one session. A celiac child requires perfect acoustic recognition for proper development. Ethan's free moments belonged to Sela. He watched the child adapt to his disabilities with remarkable ingenuity, feeling the vibrations of approaching footsteps through the floor with his remaining functional sensory nodes. They developed their own form of communication, a combination of simple celiac clicks Ethan could manage, and a system of tactile signals tapped out on the medical pod's surface. The modifications to Ethan's apartment drained his savings. Atmospheric regulators, gravity adjusters, specialized lighting systems, each installation scrutinized by Kavor's exacting standards. Sarah documented every change, her datapad filling with notes about environmental stability and safety protocols. 3 months, Warren reminded him as they prepared for the first neural regeneration treatment. We need to show measurable improvement in that time frame. Sela lay still in the treatment chamber, trust evident in the calm positioning of his remaining functional sensory appendages. Ethan initiated the procedure, watching as the bioelectric stimulation matrix activated. On the neural monitors, damaged pathways flickered with new activity. Initial response positive, Warren noted, adjusting the field strength, but will need significantly more regeneration to satisfy the adoption board's requirements. A soft tapping sound drew Ethan's attention. Through the chamber's observation window, Sela was using their private code. Safe. Ethan tapped back. Safe. Helping. The neural readings continued to stream across the monitors as the first treatment progressed, each data point carrying the weight of both a medical and personal future. The clock on the lab wall marked the passing minutes, each one bringing them closer to the 3-month deadline that would determine whether this unprecedented bridge between species would stand or fall. As Ethan monitored the first treatment's progress, a message notification flashed across his tablet. Dr. James Morrison, a name he hadn't expected to see. The retired neurosurgeon's message was brief. Reviewed Sela's files. Your approach has merit. Meet me at the Olympus Medical Center, Lab 7. Dr. Warren, Ethan called, gesturing to the neural readings. Can you monitor? Go, Warren nodded, eyes fixed on the data streams. We're stable here. The Olympus Medical Center's aging corridors led Ethan to a dimly lit laboratory where Dr. Morrison hunched over a holographic display of celiac neural architecture. His weathered hands traced patterns in the air, manipulating the image with practiced precision. These neural structures, Morrison said without turning around, they mirror patterns I discovered during the colonial expansion. Different species, same underlying principles. He expanded a section of the display. Look here, the regenerative response to electromagnetic stimulation. Ethan stepped closer, studying the intricate network of neural pathways. You've seen this before. Similar patterns in deep space adapted humans never got to complete the research. Morrison's voice carried old wounds, but your boy's case. He straightened, fixing Ethan with an intense gaze. I want in. A sharp knock interrupted them. Sarah Williams entered, datapad in hand. Dr. Cox, we need to discuss the atmospheric regulation system in your apartment. She displayed readings that made Ethan's stomach sink. These levels are dangerously unstable for celiac physiology. The cost estimates scrolled across her screen, numbers that blurred into a seemingly insurmountable sum when combined with the specialized equipment Morrison identified for the electromagnetic treatment. Ambassador Cavor's message arrived that evening. Financial instability demonstrates inadequate resources for guardianship. The embassy recommends immediate review of adoption petition. Ethan sat in his office, calculating and recalculating his finances, when Colonel Thomas Bradford walked in unannounced. The veteran's cybernetic leg hummed softly as he approached. "Remember that time you pulled shrapnel out of my chest during the belt conflicts?" Bradford asked, laying a data chip on the desk. "The Veterans Association remembers too. We've started a fundraising campaign." The support grew rapidly. Veterans shared stories of Ethan's service. Colonial families donated equipment. Dr. Lisa Warren joined the team, documenting the unique communication system evolving between Ethan and Sella. In the lab, Morrison and Warren worked tirelessly on the biocompatible gel. "The electromagnetic conductivity is perfect," Warren announced, studying the latest test results. "But we need to ensure it won't interfere with Sella's other biological systems." Ethan split his time between the lab and intensive language sessions. He practiced celiac clicks until his throat was raw, determined to master the complex acoustic patterns Cavor demanded. During one evening session, Sella introduced a new gesture, a combination of human sign language and celiac sensory movements. Dr. Lisa Warren leaned forward, recording every detail. "This is unprecedented," she said, reviewing the footage. "He's creating a bridge between our communication systems." The modified apartment now hummed with new equipment, paid for by the Veterans Campaign. Sarah Williams conducted another inspection, marking items off her checklist with growing approval. "The atmospheric controls are now within acceptable parameters," she noted. "But remember, we're watching everything closely." In the treatment preparation room, Morrison adjusted the electromagnetic frequency generators while Ethan reviewed the procedure with Sella using their hybrid sign language. "Understanding," Ethan signed. Sella's response combined a human thumbs-up with a subtle sensory tendril movement that indicated trust. Through the observation window, Ambassador Cavor watched with his appendages tightly coiled, a sign of tension or possibly concern. The attention this case had drawn to celiac medical practices clearly made him uncomfortable, but the growing support from the Mars colonial community made it increasingly difficult to dismiss. Morrison calibrated the final settings on the equipment. "Ready for the first full neural pathway treatment. Let's make history, shall we?" "Make history" proved a painfully apt phrase. The moment Morrison activated the electromagnetic field, Sella's body went rigid. His secondary neural tendrils twisted in unnatural patterns, vibrating at frequencies that sent the monitoring equipment into a frenzy of alerts. "Shutting down," Ethan commanded, reaching for the emergency protocols. "Warren, get me a neural stabilizer." The treatment chamber hissed open. Ambassador Cavor pushed past the medical team, appendages flaring in agitation. "This validates our concerns. The child's autonomic responses indicate severe systemic stress." Within hours, Ethan faced the Mars Colonial Medical Board. The emergency hearing room buzzed with tension as Cavor's formal complaint scrolled across the main display. "Reckless endangerment of a celiac minor through unauthorized experimental procedures." Dr. Morrison stepped forward, pulling up a three-dimensional neural map. "Look at these readings from the secondary nervous system." He highlighted a cascade of synaptic activity. The apparent seizure activity wasn't random. The secondary neural network actively rerouted signals around damaged pathways. "A protective mechanism." Dr. Chen from the board leaned forward. "Precisely." Morrison manipulated the display, overlaying temporal data. By reducing the electromagnetic frequency and extending treatment duration, we can work with this natural defense system instead of fighting it. Sarah Williams' testimony followed, her inspection data appearing on the screen. Dr. Cox has converted his spare room into a Class II medical monitoring facility. Environmental controls maintain celiac optimal conditions within 0.1% variance. The board deliberated for 90 minutes. Their decision came with conditions: a new oversight committee, additional monitoring requirements, and mandatory participation of celiac medical experts in all future treatments. Back in the lab, Dr. Lisa Warren's observation changed everything. She burst into the treatment room, waving her data tablet. Look at these neuroplasticity readings during your communication sessions with Sela. The numbers told a clear story. Sela's neural activity spiked dramatically during their interactions. Warren pointed to specific data points. The social bonding appears to enhance neural adaptability. We need to incorporate this into the treatment protocol. They modified the treatment chamber to allow direct interaction. Ethan sat beside Sela during the next session, maintaining their unique sign language conversation as the modified electromagnetic field hummed at its new, lower frequency. "Feeling okay?" Ethan signed. Sela's response combined a human gesture with a subtle neural tendril movement. Different. Better. The monitoring equipment tracked steady improvements in neural conductivity. Warren documented each session, her cameras capturing the evolving language. They created a blend of human gestures and celiac sensory movements that bridged their biological differences. Colonel Bradford's fundraising efforts attracted unexpected attention. Neurotech's CEO arrived personally to discuss terms for providing their advanced neural regeneration equipment. "We want access to the research data," she stated, sliding a contract across the table. "The implications for both species, with strict privacy protections," Ethan interrupted. "Sela isn't a research subject." Kavor insisted on reviewing every detail of the agreement, his appendages twitching as he parsed the legal language. The Celiac Collective maintains final approval rights over any published findings. The new equipment arrived as they reached the halfway point of their 3-month window. Sela's secondary nervous system showed increasing signs of adaptation, creating new neural pathways around the damaged areas. But Kavor's scrutiny intensified with each new human added to the project. "The collective remains concerned about the scope of human involvement," he announced during one treatment session. "This case has implications beyond mere medical procedures." Ethan adjusted the neural monitors, watching as Sela's readings stabilized under the modified protocol. The next 6 weeks would determine everything: not just Sela's recovery, but the possibility of his adoption. The medical board's next review loomed ahead, where they would need to demonstrate conclusive evidence of improvement. Warren entered with fresh data from their latest communication analysis. "The neuroplasticity responses are strengthening," she reported, pulling up comparative scans. "But we need to document more extensive regeneration before the deadline." The treatment chamber hummed at its carefully calibrated frequency as Sela initiated their next session of combined communication and neural therapy. His remaining sensory tendrils moved with increasing precision, adapting to their new pathways as the modified equipment worked to support natural healing processes. The next morning's routine blood work revealed an anomaly that sent the lab into high alert. Dr. Marcus Warren burst into the treatment room, tablet displaying a complex biochemical analysis. "These levels are unprecedented," he said, expanding a chart of molecular markers. "The electromagnetic therapy is triggering production of an unknown neurotransmitter." Ethan studied the readings, his stomach tightening. "Stop the treatment, now." The equipment powered down with a descending hum. Sela's tendrils twitched in response, signing, "Why stop?" "Safety first," Ethan signed back, keeping his movements steady despite his racing thoughts. Dr. Morrison leaned over the biochemical readouts, his weathered face lighting up with recognition. These molecular structures, they're similar to compounds we see in human nerve regeneration. He pulled up archived medical data from his colonial research. Look at the binding sites. Doctor. Warren overlaid the molecular models. The resemblance is remarkable, but Sella's variant requires specific mineral cofactors. He highlighted several atomic structures. These aren't present in Martian soil. They're common on the Sheliak homeworld, Ambassador Kavor interjected from the doorway. His appendages coiled tightly as he examined the data. The mining facility on Phobos extracts similar compounds. We need those minerals, Ethan said. Can you authorize? Impossible. Kavor's tendrils snapped rigid. Sheliak resources cannot be allocated to non-citizens. Colonel Bradford activated his comm unit. Commander Hayes, Mars Phobos Transport Authority, Priority Channel. His cybernetic leg whirred as he paced. Michael. That favor you owe me, I'm calling it in. Commander Hayes' hologram materialized in the lab. Ethan, didn't expect to see you involved. He reviewed the mineral specifications. I can fast-track a trade agreement, but even with maximum priority, we're looking at weeks of processing. Dr. Lisa Warren's voice cut through the tension. Found something. She projected historical records onto the main screen. First contact era, 2157. Human mining colony provided emergency mineral supplements to a stranded Sheliak survey team. She highlighted the legal precedent. Reciprocal aid protocol was established. Trade Commissioner Marshall arrived within hours, armed with geological surveys and market valuations. Earth minerals, he said, displaying samples of rare compounds. Valuable to Sheliak engineering projects. A fair trade under established protocols. Kavor's appendages twisted in agitation. The collective must consider, the protocols are clear, Marshall interrupted. Refusing aid exchange violates Section 7 of the Mars-Sheliak Trade Accord. While the negotiations proceeded, Ethan noticed changes in Sella's responses during their daily sessions. A dropped instrument caused Sella's tendrils to ripple in sequence, a reaction requiring neural coordination that had been absent since the accident. Dr. Lisa Warren recorded every instance. Natural adaptation, she said, reviewing the footage. His nervous system is finding new pathways, even without the full treatment. Sarah Williams conducted her inspection with meticulous attention. The structured environment you've created, she noted, it's supporting his recovery. She entered data into her pad. I'm recommending an extension to account for these medical complications. The authorization for mineral transfer came through on a priority channel. Commander Hayes' hologram displayed the orbital trajectory. Transport leaves Phobos in 6 hours. Arrival in 3 days, accounting for orbital mechanics. Morrison used the waiting period to recalibrate the treatment protocols. We'll start with low-frequency electromagnetic pulses, he explained, adjusting equipment settings. Let his body incorporate the minerals gradually. Kavor received a priority message from the collective. His appendages relaxed slightly as he read. The medical council expresses interest in your findings. He paused. They suggest continued observation may have value. Ethan watched the orbital tracking display, each pixel of movement bringing them closer to resuming treatment. In the observation room, Sella practiced their hybrid sign language with increasing precision, his remaining tendrils flowing through the combined human and Sheliak gestures. Soon, Sella signed. Soon, Ethan confirmed, adding the Sheliak gesture for patience. The transport from Phobos was already approaching its transfer orbit, carrying with it the minerals that could bridge the gap between their world's biology and perhaps their bureaucracies as well. The transport ship's arrival coincided with an unexpected visitor. Medical Overseer T-Land strode into the laboratory, her iridescent tendrils moving in precise, measured patterns that marked her elevated status within the Sheliak medical hierarchy. The collective's moderate factions requested my evaluation, she announced, studying the equipment readouts. Her auxiliary sensory organs pulsed as she absorbed the data streaming across the screens. Your preliminary results warrant closer examination. T-Land's presence transformed the dynamics of the treatment facility. She produced historical medical records, displaying them alongside Sella's neural scans. Similar regeneration patterns appeared during our early space exploration era. Her tendrils twisted in a gesture indicating restricted knowledge. Cultural shifts led to the suppression of this research. Dr. Morrison and Dr. Warren immediately began integrating the newly arrived mineral compounds into their treatment protocol. They developed a specialized nutrient solution, designing it for absorption through Sella's auxiliary respiratory membranes. Neural activity detected in Cluster 7, Warren announced, tracking the readings. Cluster 9 responding, Cluster 12 showing increased conductivity. The success proved short-lived. Pressure readings in Sella's primary nervous system spiked, forcing them to adjust mineral concentrations mid-treatment. They achieved stability through careful calibration, but a new crisis emerged. Warning indicators flashed across the environmental control panels. Chief Engineer Howard Roberts burst into the treatment room, his diagnostic tools already scanning the air filtration systems. Mineral particulates from the recent dust storms. They've compromised the primary filters. The backup systems engaged with a mechanical whir, but Roberts shook his head. These won't maintain Sheliak optimal conditions. The tolerances are too wide. Ethan assessed the readings from his home facility's monitoring system, transmitted directly to his tablet. My environmental controls are holding steady. We need to move Sella now. They transferred Sella to Ethan's converted medical room within the hour. Dr. Morrison's equipment filled the space, creating an oddly efficient arrangement that improved access to critical monitors. Sarah Williams arrived minutes later, her inspection protocols activated by the emergency relocation. She moved methodically through the space, scanning every piece of equipment. Atmospheric composition stable, temperature variance within 0.5 degrees, pressure differentials nominal. Ambassador Kavor's hologram materialized hourly, demanding status updates. His agitation showed in the rapid movements of his projected appendages. The collective requires detailed documentation of this irregular arrangement. Colonel Bradford's Veterans Network sprang into action, establishing secure supply lines between Ethan's residence and the Colonial Medical Center. Medical transport pods moved smoothly through the Martian streets, maintaining the critical flow of resources. T-Lan observed the operation with increasing interest. Her sensory organs tracked the performance metrics of Ethan's environmental systems. These modifications achieve superior stability compared to standard medical facilities. She began documenting the specialized configurations. This could serve as a model for future colonial installations. Kavor's tendrils twisted in reluctant acknowledgement. The practical advantages are notable. He paused, his appendages coiling tighter. However, cultural considerations must evolve with circumstance, T-Lan interrupted, her status allowing such directness. She highlighted the readings from Sella's latest neural scan. 3 secondary sensory clusters show complete regeneration. This represents a medical breakthrough. The success created a new challenge. Maintaining Sella's progress required continued treatment in the specialized environment of Ethan's home facility. The hospital's environmental systems would need extensive upgrades to match its capabilities. Warren compared the latest scans to their baseline readings. The neural pathways are stabilizing. We're seeing consistent signal propagation through the regenerated clusters. T-Lan's presence drew increasing attention from the Sheliak medical establishment. Her reports traveled directly to the highest levels of their healthcare hierarchy, bypassing traditional diplomatic channels. Ethan adjusted the mineral infusion rates, watching as Sella's neural readings maintained their steady improvement. Their sign language sessions now incorporated movements that had been impossible weeks earlier, each successful gesture representing another step toward recovery and toward the permanent arrangement they both hoped to achieve. Home. Sella signed, combining human gestures with newly responsive tendrils. Ethan's response remained carefully neutral, aware of the multiple observers monitoring their interaction. Rest now. More treatment soon. T-Land's appendages moved in an expression of approval as she documented another successful neural response pattern. The path forward would require navigating both medical and bureaucratic challenges, but for now, they focused on the immediate task, maintaining the delicate balance that supported Sella's continuing recovery. T-Land's approval carried significant weight, but a new figure stepped into the treatment room the next morning. Dr. Victor Harrison, director of the Mars Colonial Medical Research Institute, studied the array of monitoring equipment with keen interest. Remarkable integration of technologies, he said, examining the modified environmental controls. His research coordinator, Dr. Alexander Foster, documented every detail with a neural recorder. The mineral delivery system particularly interests me. Dr. Morrison explained the calibrations while Foster's hands flew across his datapad. Harrison nodded at each technical specification, his attention shifting between the equipment and Sella's vital signs. Secondary cluster activity at 47% above baseline, Foster noted, comparing readings. Environmental awareness increasing steadily. Sella's tendrils suddenly rippled in sequence. The monitors registered a spike in neural activity. Pressure differential detected, Warren announced, checking the atmospheric sensors. 0.03 millibars. T-Land's sensory organs pulsed rapidly. That level of sensitivity indicates functional regeneration in the environmental detection nodes. She initiated a detailed scan of Sella's neural pathways. This capability was completely absent after the accident. The breakthrough coincided with Sarah Williams' arrival for her final evaluation. She recorded the interaction as Sella demonstrated the new sensory awareness, tracking minute atmospheric changes with precise tendril movements. The original 3-month period ends tomorrow, she said, organizing her findings. I've scheduled the review board for 900. The colonial administration's hearing chamber filled with representatives from every involved agency. Ambassador Kavor's appendages moved in agitation as Dr. Morrison presented the medical data. Charts and neural scans covered the display screens, documenting each milestone in Sella's recovery. Chief Engineer Roberts stepped forward, projecting a holographic model of Ethan's environmental systems. Standard deviation of 0.2 degrees Celsius, he said, highlighting the temperature controls. Pressure variance under 0.1 millibars. No other facility matches these specifications. Colonel Bradford uploaded a document to the review board's displays. 217 signatures, he said. Human and celiac medical practitioners supporting continued treatment. T-Land's testimony drew particular attention. She presented comparative analyses of similar injuries, emphasizing the unprecedented nature of Sella's recovery. The board members leaned forward as she displayed the neural regeneration rates. Dr. Warren's genetic analysis results arrived during the proceedings. Genetic marker S173, she explained, projecting the molecular structure. A rare variant affecting neural plasticity. Kavor immediately activated his communication array. The collective must secure. The Institute proposes a joint research initiative, Harrison interrupted, transmitting a detailed proposal. Continued study under current conditions with data sharing protocols. Administrator James Maxwell studied the genetic findings. This case establishes new precedent, he said, reviewing the collected evidence. We need time to evaluate the long-term implications. The board's decision arrived via official channels, 1-month extension with reduced medical support. Ethan began intensive training with Morrison and Warren, learning to operate the treatment systems independently. Mineral concentration at 3.7 parts per million, Ethan recited, adjusting the infusion rates under Warren's supervision. Neural cluster activity stable. Cella's tendrils formed the signs for progress and patience, a combination that drew an approving pulse from T-Land's sensory organs. The medical overseer documented the interaction, adding it to her growing database of successful adaptations. Foster continued his analysis, particularly focused on the interface between human and Shellyak medical technologies. The mineral delivery system's efficiency exceeds our previous benchmarks, he noted, comparing performance data. This could revolutionize cross-species treatment protocols. In the converted treatment room, Ethan practiced the complex calibration sequences, while Sella demonstrated increasingly refined environmental awareness. Each successful adjustment brought them closer to proving the sustainability of their arrangement, though Kavor's pending claim to Shellyak wardship hung over the proceedings like a shadow in Mars' thin atmosphere. Maxwell began drafting new regulatory frameworks, his office filled with reports from the unprecedented case. The documentation from Foster and Harrison provided foundation for protocols that would extend far beyond one human's effort to provide a home for a Shellyak child. T-Lan observed it all, her sensory organs tracking every measurement, every interaction, every sign of progress. Her reports to the collective grew longer, filled with data that challenged centuries of cultural isolation. In the treatment room, Cella's tendrils detected another minute atmospheric shift, signing the exact pressure change before the monitors registered it. The readings appeared on the monitor a fraction of a second after Cella's tendrils signaled the change. Ethan watched the correlation between her movements and the data stream, noting another successful prediction of atmospheric variance. A knock at the door interrupted his documentation. Dr. Nathan Brooks stood in the entrance, his travel-worn attire suggesting a direct shuttle from Earth. "Mr. Miller, I've reviewed Cella's case files." He strode to the monitoring station, tablet already displaying archived legal documents. "There's precedent for your situation. Early colonial period research specimen custody grants." Before Ethan could respond, Cella's tendrils contracted sharply. The neural activity monitors spiked into red zones. "Neural cluster overload," Dr. Morrison announced, rushing to adjust the mineral infusion rates. "The regenerated pathways are operating at 167% of projected sensitivity." T-Land's sensory organs pulsed rapidly as she analyzed the readings. Growth rate exceeds all recorded instances in Shellyak medical archives. She initiated a deep scan of Cella's neural structure. Previous cases were terminated before reaching this stage. Dr. Brooks set up his workstation in the corner, correlating legal precedents with Cella's medical data, while Morrison and Warren worked to stabilize her neural responses. Administrator Maxwell joined remotely, his hologram materializing beside Brooks's displays. Chief Engineer Roberts burst into the room, his atmospheric sensors flashing warning patterns. "Dust front approaching from Acidalia Planitia, 7 to 2 hours until it hits the colony." He projected a meteorological map showing the storm's movement. "Standard filters won't maintain these tolerances during a major dust event." Colonel Bradford's face appeared on the main screen. "I have a solution." He transmitted schematics of military-grade environmental systems. "Deep space spec, originally designed for covert bases in the Kuiper Belt. My team can retrofit the entire facility before the storm arrives." Ambassador Kavor materialized in the center of the room, his hologram interrupting Bradford's presentation. "The collective proposes an alternative arrangement. Joint custody between Mr. Miller and the Central Medical Institute of Inadvisable, Dr. Brooks interjected, pulling up research data. Treatment stability correlates directly with environmental consistency. Divided custody introduces unnecessary variables. Tilan moved to the neural scanner displays, her appendages indicating specific data points. These regeneration patterns match theoretical models from early celiac research, studies abandoned due to technological limitations, not medical failure. The retrofit began within hours. Bradford's veterans worked with mechanical precision, installing filtration systems that hummed at frequencies below Cella's enhanced sensitivity threshold. Roberts supervised the integration, his diagnostic tools tracking every atmospheric parameter. Mineral concentrations require adjustment, Warren announced, examining Cella's latest neural scans. The accelerated growth is altering absorption rates. Morrison modified the treatment protocol, carefully balancing mineral levels against neural activity. We're seeing new pathway formation in previously dormant regions. Dr. Brooks transferred documents to Maxwell's office, building their legal framework. The Research Specimen Custody Act of 2157 established clear precedent. When scientific benefit exists, cross-species guardianship claims receive priority consideration. Cavor's projected form flickered with agitation. The collective cannot. The collective's own records support this position, Brooks continued, displaying archived case files. 17 approved transfers in the first decade of human celiac contact. Outside, the Martian sky darkened with approaching dust clouds. Inside, Bradford's team installed the final components of the military-grade environmental system. Roberts checked the seals, his instruments detecting no variance in the protected atmosphere. Cella's tendrils moved in precise patterns, signing to Ethan through another neural sensitivity spike. The monitors showed increasing stability as Warren's adjusted mineral formula took effect. Tilan documented every response, her reports to the collective growing longer with each successful adaptation. The dust storm loomed closer while Brooks and Maxwell refined their legal strategy. In the protected space of the treatment room, Cella's regenerated neural pathways continued to process environmental data with unprecedented accuracy, each successful reading strengthening their case against divided custody. Technical Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez crouched beside an exposed environmental control panel, his diagnostic tool revealing critical readings in the red zone. "Colonel, we've got degraded seals throughout the East Wing. These won't hold against a Category 4 dust event." Bradford examined the structural analysis on Rodriguez's tablet. "How long to replace them?" 48 hours minimum, but that's not our biggest problem." Rodriguez traced a finger along the building's maintenance schematic. The primary atmospheric processors weren't designed for this level of filtration. One strong gust could destabilize the entire treatment environment. Warren's team already moved into action, transferring vital monitoring equipment to the central chamber. The condensed space forced them to reconfigure Cella's treatment area, positioning the mineral delivery systems in a tight hexagonal pattern around the medical pod. Neural response improving by 12%, Warren noted, studying the readouts. The proximity of the delivery nodes appears to enhance absorption rates. Tilan's appendages moved rapidly as she processed the data. This matches historical cases. She transmitted a set of archived files to the main display. 17 documented instances of accelerated healing in controlled environments during the early contact period. Cavor's hologram materialized instantly. Those records fall under Cultural Preservation Directive 7, which explicitly excludes medical data relevant to active treatment cases. Dr. Brooks interjected, not looking up from his legal drafts. Section 12, Paragraph 3. The building shuddered as Rodriguez's team began reinforcing the east wing support structures. Cella's tendrils contracted, registering the vibrations before the sensors detected them. Pressure variance .04 millibars, Morrison announced, adjusting the mineral feed. We need to recalibrate the entire delivery system for the atmospheric changes. Dr. William Parker stepped through the doorway, his ethics committee credentials displayed prominently. I understand you're establishing new cross-species custody protocols. Based on documented precedent, Brooks said, transmitting the full legal framework to Parker's secure tablet. The Research Specimen Custody Act provides clear foundation. A warning klaxon cut through their discussion. Rodriguez's voice came through the facility's comm system. Colonel, we've got structural fatigue in sections 7 through 12. The reinforcement plates aren't bonding properly. Bradford activated his tactical display. Reroute the Veterans Association supply chain. Priority clearance for everything we need. The backup systems won't arrive in time, Rodriguez reported. First wave hits in less than 7 to 2 hours. Warren's instruments registered another spike in Cella's neural activity. These readings suggest interrupted treatment could reverse 3 weeks of progress. The sensory regeneration is at a critical phase. Morrison worked at his console, programming new algorithms for the mineral delivery system. The automated adjustments can compensate for pressure changes, but we need at least 24 hours of testing. 18. Bradford checked the storm tracking data. The leading edge just accelerated. Through the facility's reinforced windows, the Martian sky took on a deep orange hue. Rodriguez's teams installed support braces across the east wing, while Warren's medical staff configured their equipment for the compressed treatment space. Parker reviewed the legal documentation, adding notes to specific sections. This framework extends beyond simple custody arrangements. We're establishing entirely new parameters for cross-species medical care, which must be secured before the storm system arrives, Brooks said. Environmental instability could invalidate our current documentation. T-Land's sensory organs pulsed as she analyzed another set of historical records. The suppressed cases indicate neural regeneration accelerates during the final integration phase. Interruption at this stage proved catastrophic in 89% of documented instances. The facility's structure groaned under another gust of strengthening wind. Rodriguez's diagnostic tools showed increasing strain on the reinforcement points. In the central chamber, Morrison's new delivery system cycled through its testing sequences, while Cella's tendrils tracked each minute change in atmospheric composition. 48 hours to full storm conditions, Bradford announced, studying the latest meteorological data. We need those backup systems. Rodriguez's diagnostic panel flashed red as the primary atmospheric regulators strained against the increasing particulate load. The dust particles, finer than any Earth-based storm, penetrated microscopic gaps in the facility's defenses. Activating emergency force field barriers, Rodriguez announced, his fingers dancing across the control interface. Blue energy fields shimmed into existence around critical sections of the building. This will maintain environmental stability, but we're drawing massive power. The facility's lights dimmed as power redirected to the barriers. In the treatment room, Dr. Morrison watched the mineral delivery system's readouts fluctuate with each power adjustment. Neural pathway formation dropping by 0.3%, Warren reported, eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. These treatment interruptions are affecting regeneration stability. T-Land moved to examine the data, her sensory organs pulsing in rapid assessment. Minor degradation detected in sectors 7 through 12 of the neural matrix. The facility's main doors slid open, admitting Dr. James Sullivan from the Mars Colonial Power Distribution Network. His expression tightened as he studied the power consumption displays. Your current draw threatens grid stability across the medical district, Sullivan said, connecting his tablet to the main power distribution node. "Mark, get in here." Senior Power Systems engineer Mark Wilson entered, already running calculations on his portable diagnostic unit. "We're seeing cascade potential if these levels persist. The dust storms affecting solar collection efficiency colony-wide." Bradford activated his military communications channel. "I have a solution." His fingers flew across the tactical display. Commander Torres, requesting immediate release of two M47 fusion generators from MDF reserves. "Authorized," Torres' voice crackled through the speaker. "Dispatching heavy lift transport now. ETA 40 minutes in these conditions." Morrison's mineral delivery system cycled through another interrupted sequence as the power fluctuated. Sella's tendrils contracted, signing distress at the disruption. "We need consistent power within the next hour," Warren said, adjusting neural stabilization protocols. "These interruptions are compounding with each cycle." T-Land documented the facility's emergency responses, her appendages moving in precise patterns as she transmitted data to the Sheliak Medical Council. Human adaptive capabilities exceed predicted parameters. Engineering solutions maintain treatment viability despite environmental extremes. Ambassador Kavor's hologram materialized, its projection unstable in the power-conserving lighting. "I am requesting an emergency session with the High Council." "These improvisations risk. Your own data proves otherwise," Brooks interrupted, transmitting figures from his tablet. "Every adaptation has improved treatment outcomes." The building shuddered as the heavy lift transport landed on the reinforced pad outside. Bradford's veterans moved with practiced efficiency, directing the installation of the massive fusion generators through the storm. Sarah Williams arrived with Dr. Victor Harrison, both wearing protective suits covered in fine red dust. Harrison's instruments scanned the treatment room's environmental conditions. "Remarkable," Harrison said, comparing readings to his archived data. "These parameters exceed Sheliak Medical Facility standards by 23%. Williams documented the findings on her official inspection tablet. Environmental stability maintained despite Category 4 storm conditions. Backup systems executing within optimal ranges. The fusion generators hummed to life, their steady power flow stabilizing the force field barriers. Morrison's mineral delivery system resumed normal operation, its displays showing green across all parameters. Neural regeneration patterns stabilizing, Warren announced. Returning to projected growth curves. Rodriguez's teams restored power to non-essential systems as the new generators took over critical functions. Wilson integrated the power distribution protocols while Sullivan monitored grid stability. "Implementing dedicated supply routing," Wilson said, finalizing the power system's configuration. "This facility now operates independently from the colonial grid." Harrison studied the latest treatment data, his expression thoughtful. "This could be the foundation for a permanent research partnership. These results demand further investigation." Brooks added the successful adaptations to his legal documentation, while Ambassador Kavor's hologram flickered with increasing agitation. The dust storm raged outside, but within the protected spaces of Ethan's facility, Sella's neural pathways continued their unprecedented regeneration under the watchful instruments of human and Sheliak observers. Warning: atmospheric containment breach detected. The facility's AI announced as red warning lights bathed the corridors. Rodriguez's diagnostic panel erupted with alerts, detecting microscopic fractures spreading across the East Wing's reinforced panels. "Colonel, we've got critical structural compromise in sectors 4 through 9, Rodriguez reported, his fingers flying across the control interface. "The particle intrusion rate exceeds our filtration capacity." Chief Engineer Roberts burst through the door, tablet in hand. "These panels won't hold. We need to seal off the entire eastern section." He projected a holographic display of the facility's layout. If we redirect environmental controls to the central zones, we can maintain core operations. Bradford nodded. Execute containment protocols. Dr. Morrison, begin equipment relocation immediately. The medical team worked with practiced efficiency, moving Sella's treatment apparatus into the condensed space. Morrison noticed an unexpected spike in the neural regeneration readings as they positioned the electromagnetic field generators closer together. "Dr. Warren, look at these numbers," Morrison called out, adjusting his instruments. "The field density at this radius." He transmitted the data to Warren's display. Warren studied the readings. Neural pathway formation accelerated by 27%. The concentrated field effect creates an optimal treatment zone. T-Land's appendages moved rapidly, documenting the discovery. Concentrated electromagnetic field applications not previously tested in celiac medical protocols. The facility's doors opened, admitting Dr. Benjamin Walsh from the Mars Energy Research Division. He carried a sleek black case bearing the Colonial Research insignia. "Colonel Bradford, I brought something that might help." He opened the case, revealing a complex array of crystalline components. Prototype deep space power distribution system. It's designed for stabilizing energy flow in extreme conditions. "Install it," Bradford ordered. Rodriguez, coordinate with Dr. Walsh's team. Walsh's technicians worked alongside Rodriguez's crew, integrating the prototype system into the facility's power grid. The crystal arrays pulsed with blue energy as they came online, smoothing out the power fluctuations that had plagued their operations. A celiac transport pod landed outside, its landing struts compensating for the violent wind conditions. Senior Medical Administrator Elron emerged, their environmental suit gleaming with protective fields. "Counselor Vitar requires immediate evaluation of facility capabilities," Elron announced, connecting to the medical systems. Their sensory organs expanded as they processed the streaming data. Environmental stability exceeds celiac emergency standards. Ambassador Kavor's hologram flickered with increased intensity. "The High Council cannot, the Council has spoken," Elron interrupted. "Your objections are noted and overruled." Morrison's console beeped, drawing attention to new readings from Sella's neural monitor. "We're seeing signs of fatigue in the regenerated pathways." "The accelerated healing requires recovery periods. Implementing modified treatment cycles," Warren responded, adjusting the protocols. "Alternating 40-minute regeneration periods with 20-minute rest intervals." Master Sergeant Frank Cooper entered the control room, his uniform covered in red dust. "Colonel, Operation Shield Wall is active. We've got armored medical transports running supply chains through the storm. First convoy arrives in 30 minutes. Supply calculations indicate critical shortages in 3 days at current consumption rates," T-Land reported. "The storm's only halfway through," Rodriguez added, checking the meteorological data. "These conditions could persist for another week." Administrator Maxwell transmitted updated files to Dr. Parker's Ethics Committee terminal. The facility's performance under crisis conditions demonstrates unprecedented capability for cross-species care. Parker reviewed the data streams, adding notations to specific sections. "The emergency protocols exceed standard requirements by significant margins." Walsh's power system hummed as another wave of storm-driven power fluctuations hit the grid. The crystal arrays responded instantly, maintaining stable energy flow to the critical treatment systems. Rodriguez and Roberts monitored the sealed east wing through remote sensors, tracking the accumulation of dust in the compromised sections. "Particle intrusion contained," Roberts reported. "Emergency barriers holding at 94% efficiency." Warren studied Sella's latest neural scans. The modified treatment schedule shows promising results, neural fatigue decreasing while maintaining optimal regeneration rates. Bradford activated the tactical display, reviewing supply chain projections. Cooper, expand the transport schedule. We need additional buffer capacity for critical resources. The storm raged outside as the facility's systems settled into their new configuration. Morrison's optimized treatment zones continued producing accelerated healing results, while Walsh's power system maintained perfect stability. Through the reinforced windows, visibility dropped to zero as the Martian dust storm reached peak intensity. Elrond's sensory organs pulsed as they completed another round of system evaluations, documenting emergency response protocols for Sheliak Medical Database. Human adaptive capabilities warrant further study. Neural pathway formation continuing at 122% of projected rates, Warren announced, adjusting the treatment cycle timing. The next phase requires careful monitoring of regeneration patterns. The facility's reconfigured spaces hummed with activity as medical teams worked alongside engineering crews, maintaining the delicate balance of systems that kept Sella's treatment progressing despite the storm's relentless assault. Each passing hour brought new challenges as resources dwindled and equipment strained under the constant load. The facility's systems had barely settled into their new rhythm when warning indicators flashed across Rodriguez's display. Power coupling instability detected, the AI announced. Secondary distribution grid experiencing cascading failures. Dr. Walsh rushed to inspect the readouts. The mineral particulates from Sella's atmospheric requirements are accumulating in the coupling arrays. He pointed to microscopic images showing crystalline buildup. This could overwhelm even military-grade systems. Bradford activated his comm link. Get me Master Engineer Davidson from Olympus Mons. Within 30 minutes, Davidson arrived through the airlock, his environment suit bearing the distinctive volcanic dust of Olympus Mons. He connected his diagnostic equipment to the power couplings. These particulates create unique interference patterns, Davidson said, analyzing the data streams. We need to modify the coupling shields to account for the specialized atmospheric composition. Elrond moved through the facility, their sensory organs processing vast amounts of environmental data. They paused near the intersection of two treatment zones, appendages extending to full scanning position. Anomalous reading detected, Elrond announced. The combined electromagnetic fields from treatment and military environmental systems generate unprecedented stability metrics. Dr. Matthews entered the control room, his Mars Colonial Defense Force insignia gleaming under the emergency lights. Send me those field measurements. This could revolutionize our approach to combat medicine. Rodriguez's terminal erupted with new alerts. Structural integrity compromised in sections 12 through 15. The storm pressure exceeds design parameters. Implementing force field rotation, Roberts called out, his fingers dancing across the engineering console. Cycling power between sections to maintain critical barriers while conserving energy. Morrison consulted his treatment schedule. We'll need precise synchronization. Sella's neural regeneration can't tolerate field disruptions during active cycles. The facility shuddered as another storm front hit. Cooper burst through the door, dust coating his tactical gear. Main supply routes are gone. 3 transport vehicles damaged. Show me the underground infrastructure maps, Cooper demanded, pulling up colonial schematics. Their maintenance tunnels running parallel to the power conduits. Warren spread out his supply manifest. I'm marking critical materials. These mineral supplements take absolute priority. In the processing lab, Roberts examined the contaminated mineral preparation equipment. We need a clean room. Rodriguez, help me salvage panels from the east wing. We can construct a sterile processing space. Elrond transmitted their findings as Ambassador Kavor's hologram flickered with diminishing authority. The message from Counselor Vitar appeared on the main screen. Expansion of evaluation mandate approved. Proceed with full technological integration assessment. Davidson's team worked through the night, modifying power coupling shields while Rodriguez's engineers rotated force fields to prevent structural collapse. The storm reached its peak intensity, battering the facility with unprecedented force. Mineral processing clean room operational, Roberts reported, sealing the last panel. Beginning emergency supplement preparation. Warren monitored Sella's neural readings as the modified systems came online. The treatment zones hummed with carefully balanced electromagnetic fields while Cooper's teams moved supplies through the underground tunnels. Field stability at 97%, Morrison announced, adjusting the mineral delivery sequence. Neural regeneration continuing within acceptable parameters. Parker and Maxwell worked at adjacent stations, documenting every successful adaptation. Each crisis response demonstrates expanded care capabilities, Maxwell noted, updating the facility's certification files. The fusion generators pulsed steadily as Davidson's modifications took effect, their output clean despite the mineral-laden atmosphere. Through the reinforced windows, the storm transformed day into night, testing every adaptation and emergency measure as the facility fought to maintain its delicate internal balance. A thunderous crack echoed through the facility as the primary power coupling gave way. Emergency lights flickered, casting irregular shadows across control panels and medical equipment. Grid destabilization spreading through sectors 3 through 7, Walsh called out, his fingers flying across multiple display screens. The mineral content in Sella's atmospheric mix is creating conductive interference patterns. Look at these readings. Rodriguez leaned in, studying the erratic power signatures. These minerals aren't just building up, they're forming networked pathways through the distribution system. Commander Joseph Reed strode into the control center, his colonial emergency response insignia glowing under the emergency lighting. Status report. Before anyone could respond, structural integrity alarms blared through the facility. Reed moved to the central monitoring station, bringing up a three-dimensional display of the building's stress points. Pressure differentials exceeding safety margins, Reed announced, highlighting 3 pooling red zones. The combination of external storm pressure and our specialized internal atmosphere is creating potential rupture points. Rodriguez activated his engineering tablet. Converting maintenance corridors to pressure relief channels. Cooper, I need your teams to clear access routes immediately. On it, Cooper responded, dispatching orders through his tactical comm. Dr. Morrison's medical console emitted a high-pitched alert. Neural pattern disruption detected. These environmental fluctuations are affecting Sella's recovery stability. Warren rushed to examine the readings, pulling up comparative data from previous treatment cycles. The pressure changes are interfering with our treatment frequencies. We need localized field stability. He grabbed several portable electromagnetic generators, positioning them around Sella's treatment zone. This will maintain proper field strength, but we're dangerously close to the unstable power grid. Dr. Harrison burst through the door, clutching a data pad. The mineral particulates, they're not just a problem, they're a potential solution. He projected his findings onto the main display. These conductive patterns could form a natural electromagnetic shield around critical treatment areas. Get me Dr. Sterling, Bradford ordered. We need his expertise in particle flow dynamics. Within hours, Dr. Sterling arrived, immediately connecting his specialized equipment to the facility's environmental control systems. We can modify the filtration arrays to channel these particles instead of removing them. Rodriguez, show me your current flow patterns. The facility shuddered as another pressure wave hit. Cooper's voice crackled over the comm system, underground supply routes showing critical stress fractures, implementing drone delivery system with military-grade inertial dampeners. Captain Torres stepped forward, inserting a data crystal into the logistics terminal, uploading classified navigation algorithms. These were designed for extreme weather operations on the Martian polar caps. Elron moved through the chaos with practiced efficiency, their sensory organs recording every adaptation and emergency response. Human crisis protocols demonstrate superior flexibility compared to standard Shellyak parameters. Ambassador Kavor's hologram flickered with agitation. The cultural implications. Your concerns are noted, Colonial Administrator Reynolds interrupted, stepping through the airlock. But this situation has evolved beyond cultural considerations. He gestured to Dr. Nash, who immediately began scanning the facility's modified systems. Sterling's team worked rapidly, reprogramming environmental controls to create structured particle flows. The power grid stabilized as the mineral shield took shape, forming protective electromagnetic bubbles around critical treatment zones. Particle flow modifications showing positive results, Sterling reported. Grid stability increasing. But even as the power systems recovered, the facility's structure groaned under the relentless assault of the storm. Nash examined structural readouts with growing concern. We need additional reinforcement for these load-bearing sections. The current configuration won't hold if the storm maintains this intensity. Rodriguez reviewed the facility's schematics, marking critical stress points. We can repurpose emergency bulkheads from the lower levels, but installation will require precise timing to maintain environmental stability. Through the facility's reinforced windows, the Martian storm continued its relentless assault, testing every modification and emergency measure as the teams worked to preserve both structure and patient. The creaking of straining metal echoed through the corridors as Sterling's particle shield shimmered with ethereal patterns, protecting the delicate equipment keeping Sela alive. The facility's structure screamed under the mounting pressure as the storm reached its predicted peak intensity. Warning klaxons blared through every corridor, accompanied by Rodriguez's voice over the emergency channel. Primary pressure regulation failing. Multiple valve assemblies showing critical alerts. Get those diagnostic feeds to my station, Roberts ordered, rushing to the engineering console. The screens displayed a nightmare of red indicators. Mineral deposits had completely fused the valve mechanisms, creating rigid masses where precisely calibrated equipment should be functioning. Rodriguez accessed the emergency protocols database, implementing bypass sequence through secondary atmospheric controls. Roberts, I need confirmation on pressure differentials. Confirmed. Routing through sectors 5 and 8. Roberts's hands flew across the controls, redirecting atmospheric systems while monitoring structural integrity readings. Anderson's team is inbound with classified shielding tech. ETA 12 minutes. A thunderous crack echoed through the facility as one of Walsh's modified power couplings exceeded thermal limits. The resulting electromagnetic surge rippled through nearby systems, causing Sela's treatment monitors to flash urgent warnings. Neural pattern destabilization. Morrison called out, adjusting treatment parameters. The M interference is disrupting regeneration sequences. Warren, check these readings. Warren analyzed the neural data streams. Previous progress showing signs of regression. We need electromagnetic isolation for the treatment zone. The airlock cycled, admitting Major Anderson and his technical team. They carried sleek equipment cases bearing Colonial Defense Force security seals. Let's see what we're working with, Anderson said, connecting his diagnostic tools to the facility's systems. Dr. Sterling joined Anderson at the engineering station. These military-grade shields, can we modify the frequency patterns for medical applications? The shielding was designed for solar storm protection, Anderson explained, bringing up technical specifications. We'll need to recalibrate for your treatment frequencies. Dr. Morrison, what's your target range? Morrison transmitted the neural regeneration parameters. Anderson and Sterling worked rapidly, adapting the military technology to create a protected treatment zone. The modified shields shimmer into existence around Sella's medical area, stabilizing the electromagnetic environment. Neural patterns responding positively, Warren reported, monitoring the readings. The isolation field is holding. Colonial Administrator Reynolds entered the control center, his tablet displaying Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha authorization codes. You have priority access to colonial resources. Use them. Through the facility's reinforced viewports, a massive wall of dust approached, threatening to cut off all external connections. Cooper's voice crackled over the comm system, initiating emergency supply protocol, establishing hardened relay points in maintenance tunnels Alpha through Delta. The drone network activated, small automated vehicles navigating through the underground passages. Cooper's logistics team had positioned signal boosters and inertial dampeners at key points, maintaining vital supply lines despite the intensifying storm. Mineral processor showing critical wear, Roberts announced. We need replacement components. Routing drones to supply cache beta, Cooper responded. Parts incoming through tunnel network. Elron moved to the central communication console, their sensory organs extended in formal presentation position. This facility's crisis responses exceed projected capabilities. I am authorized to offer access to Sheliak environmental control systems. Ambassador Kavor's hologram materialized, vibrating with agitation. This technology transfer has not been approved by emergency session of the Scientific Council is convening, Elron interrupted, their appendages signaling urgency. Human adaptation strategies warrant immediate technology integration. Warren's medical station emitted a series of rapid alerts. He examined the neural pattern displays, noting unexpected stability peaks correlating with storm intensity. These readings, Dr. Morrison, look at the synchronization between atmospheric electromagnetic activity and neural regeneration rates. Morrison analyzed the data. The storm's natural M fields they're actually enhancing treatment effectiveness when properly channeled. Anderson, can your shielding technology be modified to capture and focus these atmospheric effects? Anderson studied the readings. We'd need to reverse the shield polarization, create a focusing lens instead of a barrier. Sterling, help me reconfigure these emitter arrays. The storm raged outside as the teams worked to adapt their systems, merging human and Sheliak technology into new configurations. Through the chaos of alarms and emergency repairs, Sella's treatment continued, protected by layers of innovation born from necessity. Rodriguez monitored the bypass systems, adjusting pressure differentials as Roberts coordinated repairs to the fused valve assemblies. The facility creaked and groaned, but held together as Cooper's supply network delivered critical components through the underground maze of tunnels and maintenance shafts. Corridors. The data streaming across Warren's neural monitoring station caught his attention. He leaned forward, studying an unexpected pattern in Sella's recovery metrics. Dr. Morrison, these readings indicate improved neural regeneration correlating with storm intensity peaks. Warren highlighted several data clusters. The external electromagnetic activity appears to enhance our treatment protocols. Morrison analyzed the correlations. We need to channel these fields effectively. This could revolutionize the entire treatment approach. He accessed the facility's communication system. Emergency request for Dr. James Matthews, Mars Colony Atmospheric Physics Division. Dr. Matthews arrived within the hour, his atmospheric analysis equipment filling 3 cargo drones. Show me the electromagnetic data, he requested, connecting his specialized sensors to the facility's external array. The storm's generating frequencies that match our therapeutic range, Warren explained, displaying the neural response patterns. Matthews nodded, studying the readings. We can modify these sensor arrays to filter and focus the electromagnetic fields, but we'll need precise calibration to maintain therapeutic levels without overwhelming the systems. Robert's structural integrity console emitted a harsh warning tone. We've got molecular destabilization in the primary support framework. The enhanced M fields are interacting with those mineral deposits, altering the metal's crystalline structure. Dr. Nash stepped forward, accessing the architectural systems. I've got a solution. His fingers flew across the controls, bringing up schematics for advanced composite materials. These carbon fiber reinforcements were engineered for deep space habitats. They're electromagnetically neutral. The facility's power grid fluctuated wildly as Matthews' modified sensors began channeling the storm's energy. Warning indicators flashed across Rodriguez's engineering station. Power surges exceeding safety parameters, Rodriguez reported. We need specialized surge protection. He transmitted an emergency request to the Martian Power Authority. Sarah Mitchell arrived from MPA headquarters, her expertise evident as she assessed the facility's power systems. These readings are unlike anything in our database. She unpacked an array of experimental dampening circuits. We can stabilize the grid, but I'll need direct access to your primary distribution nodes. General Michael Harrison observed the proceedings from the command center's elevated platform. Major Wilson, your assessment. Major Wilson studied the facility's adaptive systems with professional interest. Sir, their environmental controls exceed our current military specifications. He inserted a classified data crystal into the main computer, uploading our atmospheric processing algorithms. This should help stabilize internal conditions. Ambassador Kavor's hologram materialized in the center of the room. The Sheliak High Council demands immediate cessation of these electromagnetic treatments. Our analysis suggests potential physiological risks. Elrond's appendages moved in a pattern indicating scientific disagreement. Dr. Morrison stepped forward, transmitting his latest findings. The M frequencies match historical readings from your homeworld's early evolutionary period. These treatments may tap into natural healing mechanisms within Sheliak biology. Cooper's voice crackled over the comm system. New supply route established. Mining Director Anderson has granted access to their automated transport network. Excellent timing, Rodriguez responded. The mineral processors need specialized components. Route them through tunnel section Gamma 9 with electromagnetic shielding active. Dr. Warren's medical station displayed a dramatic spike in neural regeneration rates. The combined effect of the storm's M fields and our modified atmosphere is accelerating recovery beyond projected parameters. He activated a newly installed monitoring array, initiating automated response system to maintain optimal conditions. The facility's backup generators whined under the increasing power load. Mitchell's dampening circuits glowed as they absorbed another series of surges. She checked the power consumption readings with growing concern. We need a permanent solution for these energy requirements. The temporary systems won't hold indefinitely. Through the reinforced windows, the Martian storm continued its relentless assault. Inside, the focused electromagnetic fields created visible distortions in the air as they channeled healing energy into the treatment zone. Matthews adjusted the collection arrays, fine-tuning their reception patterns, while Wilson's atmospheric processors maintained the delicate balance of internal conditions. The facility hummed with the combined effort of human and Sheliak technology, all systems straining to sustain the breakthrough treatment. The facility's monitoring systems erupted with urgent alerts as data streams from the northern polar region indicated an approaching electromagnetic disturbance of unprecedented magnitude. Dr. Matthews rushed to his atmospheric sensors, fingers flying across calibration controls. These readings exceed our collection array specifications by several orders of magnitude, Matthews announced, displaying a holographic model of the approaching storm front. The surge could create dangerous feedback loops through our entire power network. Warren's medical station emitted a series of rapid beeps, neural regeneration accelerating beyond predicted parameters. He adjusted display settings, revealing complex patterns of neural activity. The electromagnetic fields are catalyzing healing processes faster than our systems can stabilize. Get me Dr. Peterson from Neural Research, Morrison ordered, studying the accelerated regeneration data. We need specialized protocols for managing these enhancement rates. Robert's structural analysis programs highlighted spreading patterns of stress fatigue across the facility's reinforcements. The carbon fiber supports are degrading under enhanced field exposure. He transmitted an emergency request to Colonial Engineering. Dr. Anderson, we need your expertise with those new ceramic metal composites. 3 military-grade fusion generators screamed warning tones as electromagnetic interference disrupted their containment fields. Mitchell accessed their core diagnostics, face illuminated by flashing alerts. Stevens, she called to the Nuluriv technical director, help me implement the orbital defense stabilizers. We've got minutes before cascade failure. Stevens inserted a classified override module into the power control systems, synchronizing stabilization frequencies. Morrison, prepare for momentary power fluctuation in 3, 2, 1. The facility's lights dimmed briefly as Stevens' classified technology integrated with the power grid. Mitchell monitored the energy distribution patterns, adjusting flow rates through upgraded conduits. In the underground tunnels, Cooper's supply drones veered off course, their navigation systems scrambled by intensifying electromagnetic fields. Walker, those mining protocols ready. Uploading manual control parameters now, Walker responded from the logistics center, rerouting essential supplies through magnetically shielded corridors. Dr. Sterling's particle monitoring equipment detected an unusual energy pattern. She enhanced the scanning resolution, revealing stable corridors forming within the electromagnetic chaos. Dr. Reynolds examined these particle flow readings, Sterling called to the Energy Research Director. The mineral-rich atmosphere is channeling power naturally. Reynolds analyzed the data streams. These energy corridors could revolutionize our distribution systems. Mitchell, can you reconfigure the power grid to utilize these pathways? Elron extended sensory appendages toward Sterling's monitoring station. Sheliak Medical Facilities employ similar principles. She transmitted detailed technical specifications to the engineering team. These shielding configurations may prove compatible. The facility's structural supports groaned as Dr. Anderson directed automated construction units to install experimental ceramic metal bracings. These composites should resist electromagnetic degradation. Roberts, monitor stress distribution across sections gamma through kappa. Dr. Peterson arrived at the medical center, neural diagnostic equipment in tow. He connected specialized monitoring arrays to Warren's stations. These acceleration rates require precise magnetic field modulation. Morrison helped me establish containment parameters. Matthews' atmospheric sensors tracked the approaching polar storm front. Impact in 17 minutes. Cooper, we need those final supply runs completed in 15. Manual guidance protocols active, Walker confirmed. Routing remaining shipments through Tunnel Beta 6. Stevens' power stabilization systems hummed as they processed increasing electromagnetic loads. Mitchell monitored the energy flow through Sterling's discovered corridors, adjusting distribution patterns to match varying field intensities. The combined human and Sheliak technologies created complex layers of protection around Sella's treatment zone. Peterson and Morrison fine-tuned the neural regeneration protocols, while Anderson's reinforced structure channeled excess energy through optimized pathways. Polar front approaching maximum intensity, Matthews reported, his sensors detecting new electromagnetic patterns forming in the Martian atmosphere. Prepare for system-wide electromagnetic surge in 5 minutes. Minutes, Matthews finished, as his sensor array erupted in a cascade of warnings. Energy signatures exceeding all recorded parameters. Captain Robert Hayes burst through the command center doors, his Colonial Defense Force uniform coated in red Martian dust. He inserted a classified data crystal into Matthews' monitoring station. These storm patterns match theoretical models for planetary magnetic field reformation. Dr. Thomas Ward, already analyzing the data through his geological interface, nodded grimly. The dormant Martian magnetic field is showing signs of activity. These readings align with predicted revival scenarios. The facility's reinforced walls creaked as Anderson's experimental composites responded to the intensifying electromagnetic fields. His diagnostic panel displayed unexpected energy conductance patterns through the ceramic metal structures. The reinforcements aren't just withstanding the fields, they're amplifying them. Anderson's fingers flew across the controls. Rodriguez, we need emergency power rerouting. Rodriguez activated protective circuits, redirecting energy flows through secondary systems. Implementing Protocol Delta 7. Mitchell, watch your load distribution. At the medical center, Peterson's equipment screamed warnings as Sella's neural readings spiked dramatically. Regeneration rate increased 300% above baseline. Her system can't handle this acceleration. Morrison activated the emergency medical channel. Get me Brian Foster from Colonial Hospital. We need selective frequency dampening immediately. The underground supply network deteriorated as electromagnetic interference overwhelmed guidance systems. Cooper's voice crackled through static. All automated systems down. Switching to manual rail operations, he turned to his assembled team. Phillips, deploy the military shields. We're moving these supplies ourselves. Combat engineer Phillips unfolded compact electromagnetic barriers, creating a protected corridor through the mining tunnels. Shields active, medical supplies secured. In the power control center, Mitchell's displays showed previously unrecorded energy patterns propagating through the Defense Force stabilization grid. She worked in tandem with Dr. William Turner, who connected experimental solar flare containment units to the facility's power network. Energy sync systems online, Turner reported, monitoring the containment readings. Redirecting excess power through emergency buffers. Sterling's particle monitoring equipment detected unusual atmospheric interactions. The electromagnetic fields are creating stable energy corridors throughout the structure. She transmitted the data to Chief Scientist Cooper. These formations shouldn't be possible under normal conditions. Documenting all readings, Chief Scientist Cooper confirmed, his research arrays capturing the unprecedented phenomena. These particle patterns could revolutionize colonial environmental systems. The facility's hybrid system strained as the polar storm intensified. Foster arrived at the medical center, bringing specialized electromagnetic filtering equipment. He worked with Peterson to establish selective dampening fields around Sella's treatment zone. Isolating therapeutic frequencies, Foster announced, adjusting the dampening array. Filtering out disruptive wavelengths while maintaining beneficial field strength. Cooper's veteran team navigated the darkened tunnels, guided by Phillips' shielded lights. They manually pushed supply carts through sections where electromagnetic interference had completely disabled power systems. Next junction in 20 meters, Phillips called out, checking his protected navigation display. Watch the field density readings. Mitchell and Turner's containment system absorbed another surge as the storm's intensity peaked. Sterling's monitors tracked the expanding network of energy corridors, while Anderson's reinforcements channeled excess power through optimized paths. Captain Hayes analyzed the incoming data streams with growing concern. These magnetic field patterns exceed all theoretical models. Dr. Ward, what's your assessment? Ward studied the geological implications. The storm's electromagnetic signature suggests deeper planetary changes. We need to. His response cut off as a massive energy spike overwhelmed the facility's primary sensors. Matthew's atmospheric monitoring equipment detected new electromagnetic formations developing in the Martian sky. Atmosphere. The energy spike overloaded Matthew's display, forcing an emergency shutdown of the primary sensor array. Through the reinforced windows, new patterns of electromagnetic activity painted the Martian sky in shifting waves of ionized particles. Multiple critical failures imminent, Hayes announced, connecting his tactical display to the facility's network. These resonance patterns are destabilizing the entire structural grid. The building groaned as waves of electromagnetic energy pulsed through its framework. Dr. Peterson's neural monitoring equipment emitted a series of urgent alerts, drawing all eyes to Sella's treatment zone. Neural activity patterns changing, Peterson reported, adjusting his scanners. Previously inactive clusters showing signs of reactivation. Warren, are you seeing this? Warren's medical display confirmed the readings. Calling Dr. Winters now. These patterns don't match any documented celiac neural responses. The facility's reinforced walls emitted a high-pitched whine as the ceramic metal composites began to shift at a molecular level. Anderson's structural sensors detected the change immediately. Dr. Thompson, Anderson called through the emergency channel, we need your materials expertise. The building's reinforcements are undergoing some form of molecular restructuring. Thompson arrived minutes later, connecting specialized scanning equipment to Anderson's monitoring station. The electromagnetic exposure is catalyzing new crystalline formations within the composite matrix. Cooper's voice crackled through the static-filled communications system, all remaining transport systems non-functional. Wilson, get up here, we need those emergency sleds modified now. Wilson accessed the Sheliak technical database, pulling up shielding specifications. Elron, can your shielding technology be adapted to our magnetic levitation systems? Elron extended a technical appendage toward Wilson's workstation. Affirmative, transmitting modification protocols. The experimental energy sink screamed warnings as power levels approached critical thresholds. Dr. Richard Anderson burst through the emergency access door, his team wheeling in massive quantum capacitor units. Clear power junction alpha. Anderson ordered, directing the installation. Mitchell, prepare for emergency power transfer on my mark. Sterling's particle monitoring equipment captured new atmospheric phenomena forming throughout the facility. Energy vortices establishing stable configurations. She transmitted the data to the Nuluriv Dr. Bennett. The mineral content is self-organizing into neural-like patterns. These formations mirror Sheliak neural architecture, Bennett confirmed, studying the readings. Continue monitoring pattern development. This could revolutionize both human and Sheliak medical technology. Chief Engineer Roberts detected unusual energy flows through the crystallizing support structure. Dr. Davidson, the building's framework is channeling these fields naturally. We need to harness this effect before it tears the facility apart. Davidson connected his engineering interface to the structural grid, implementing adaptive support algorithms. Anderson, synchronize your power transfer with these structural frequencies. Wilson and Elron's modified transport sleds hummed to life, Sheliak shielding technology creating protected corridors through the electromagnetic interference. Cooper's team loaded critical supplies onto the hybrid vehicles. First successful human Sheliak transport integration. Wilson noted as the sleds navigated the disrupted tunnels. Cooper, supply line restored through Section Delta. Dr. Winters arrived at the medical center, his xenobiological scanning equipment revealing unprecedented neural activity in Sella's healing patterns. These dormant pathways, they're not just reactivating, they're establishing new connections. Peterson, adjust field modulation to frequency 7.3. The quantum capacitors powered up as Anderson initiated the emergency transfer sequence. Mitchell, route excess power through the crystalline networks. Davidson, monitor structural integrity. Energy distribution stabilizing, Mitchell reported, watching as the new systems absorbed the electromagnetic surge. Sterling, those atmospheric vortices are intensifying. The facility's transformed reinforcements channeled the polar storm's energy through newly formed crystalline pathways, creating a web of controlled electromagnetic fields throughout the structure. Davidson's monitoring equipment tracked the emerging patterns. The building is adapting, he announced, studying the structural data. These crystalline formations are creating natural containment channels across all major support systems. Sterling's atmospheric sensors detected increasing organization within the energy vortices. Particle density reaching optimal levels for sustained neural pattern formation. Dr. Bennett, we need expanded monitoring coverage. Neural pattern detected within the atmospheric vortices, Bennett announced, highlighting a section of Sterling's data. The visualization displayed intricate webs of energy that pulsed in familiar rhythms. These formations match both human and Shellyak neural signatures. Dr. Paul Davidson's fingers flew across his engineering interface, tracking the crystallization pattern spreading through the facility's reinforcements. The molecular restructuring, it's not random. These crystalline formations mirror neural pathways. A thunderous crack echoed through the command center as another support beam underwent molecular transformation. Chief Engineer Roberts activated the emergency structural monitoring system. We're losing integrity in Section 7. Hansen, status on those experimental struts. Colonial Mining Chief Engineer Victor Hansen directed his team through the Northwestern Access Corridor, guiding massive reinforcement units on modified cargo sleds. First wave of deep crust mining supports arriving now. These units handled 16,000 psi at 3 kilometers depth they'll hold. The quantum capacitor array screamed a critical warning. Dr. Richard Anderson's display flashed red as power levels exceeded safety parameters. Containment failing in 3 minutes. We need those military-grade buffers. Major Thomas Reed burst through the emergency airlock, his team rolling in classified solar flare containment units. Clear the power junction. Anderson, synchronize your capacitor frequency to match these dampers. He connected a secured interface to the facility's power grid, matching crystalline resonance. Now, the capacitor's warning tone shifted to a lower pitch as the military technology absorbed the excess energy. Reed monitored the readings closely. Power stabilizing at 80% of critical. Davidson, how's that structural web holding? Crystallization has reached 60% of primary supports, Davidson reported. The patterns they're creating natural containment channels. Wait. His sensors detected a new energy signature. I'm picking up a bioelectric field interfacing with the crystal matrix. In the medical center, Dr. Winter's equipment detected the change immediately. Sella's neural activity synchronizing with facility resonance. Peterson confirmed these readings. Dr. Marcus Lawrence rushed to the monitoring station, his xenobiology scanners active. The child's neural pattern is stabilizing the entire electromagnetic field. She's creating a therapeutic feedback loop through the crystalline network. Supply vehicles losing maglev stability, Cooper reported through the emergency channel. These crystal formations are disrupting the lift fields. Dr. Brian Mitchell connected his equipment to one of the affected transports. Elron, I need access to your inertial dampening specs. The Sheliak engineer extended multiple technical appendages, transferring data to Mitchell's system. Integrating human guidance with Sheliak dampeners. Cooper, try it now. The transport hummed to life, floating smoothly despite the electromagnetic interference. Cooper guided it through a crystallized section of tunnel. Stability confirmed, rolling out modifications to all essential vehicles. Sterling's atmospheric monitors flashed urgent warnings. Mineral density approaching critical levels. Commander Walker, we need those processors modified immediately. Commander James Walker activated classified terraforming protocols through the facility's environmental systems, implementing emergency filtration. Sterling, monitor particulate flow through these channels. The crystalline structures continued their expansion as Dr. Michael Harrison documented each successful adaptation. Every system integration is generating new hybrid technologies. Mitchell, capture those transport modifications. Walker, I need complete data on those atmospheric processors. A deep resonance built throughout the facility as the polar storm reached maximum intensity. The crystal matrix channeled electromagnetic energy in precise patterns, creating a network of stable power corridors that pulsed in sync with Sella's neural readings. Structural integrity holding at acceptable levels, Hansen reported, monitoring the experimental support struts. Crystal growth contained within reinforced zones. Davidson's sensors tracked the evolving patterns. The facility's becoming a self-regulating system. These crystal formations are adapting to maintain optimal conditions for neural regeneration. Reed adjusted the military containment units as another energy surge rolled through the power grid. Capacitors stable, but will need constant monitoring to prevent feedback loops. He transmitted the readings to Anderson's station. Any disruption could cascade through the entire network. The merged human and Sheliak technologies created a delicate balance throughout the facility, each system interconnected through the crystalline matrix. Lawrence studied the neural interface patterns forming between Sella and the growing crystal structure. Her recovery is now linked to the facility's stability. We need to maintain these exact conditions. Parameters, the neural synchronization frequencies. He paused, eyes widening at his display. Dr. Reynolds, you need to see this. Dr. Thomas Reynolds connected his geophysical monitoring equipment to the main sensor array. These resonance patterns they're interfacing with Mars's magnetic field. His fingers flew across the controls, mapping the expanding electromagnetic bubble forming around the facility. The crystalline network is creating a stable magnetic shield. The shield's perimeter extended outward, kilometers beyond the facility walls. Storm sensors indicated a dramatic reduction in electromagnetic interference within the protected zone. Reynolds transmitted the data to the Colonial Command Center. Power grid fluctuations detected in sectors 3 through 7, Power Grid Director Marshall announced through the emergency channel. Initiating isolation protocols. Davidson, we need those specialized transformers immediately. Michael Davidson's engineering team wheeled in prototype magnetic-resistant power units. Converting primary distribution nodes now. Marshall, prepare for switchover on my mark. Chief Engineer Roberts monitored the crystalline growth patterns spreading through the support structure. Peterson, confirm these geometric formations. Dr. Alan Peterson's analysis equipment mapped the crystal matrices. Growth patterns exhibit perfect hybridization of human and Sheliak neural architecture. The facility is literally growing a compatible interface between our species. In the medical center, Sella's monitoring equipment registered unprecedented neural activity. Dr. Winters adjusted his scanners, capturing the real-time interaction between the child's healing patterns and the facility's crystalline network. Neural regeneration accelerating, Winters reported as Dr. Richard Thompson entered the medical bay. The crystal matrix responds directly to her neural signals. Thompson connected his medical database to the monitoring system. This feedback loop is revolutionary. The facility itself is becoming an extension of her healing process. The doors slid open as Dr. William Harrison strode in, followed by Commander Stevens. Harrison's defense analytics captured detailed readings of the magnetic shield's properties. These protection levels exceed our most advanced defensive systems, Harrison noted, sharing the data with Stevens. The crystal structure naturally generates what our shield generators require massive power plants to produce. A transport sled's warning system blared as it encountered the expanding magnetic field. Master Sergeant Cooper's voice crackled through the comm. Losing guidance control in Section Delta, Robert Warren accessed the navigation systems remotely. Detecting harmonic disruption in the guidance array, Cooper switched to frequency channel 7. I'm uploading new protocols based on the crystal's resonance patterns. The transport stabilized, its modified systems adapting to the electromagnetic environment. Cooper guided it smoothly through the shielded corridor. Navigation restored. Warren, transmit these modifications to all active vehicles. Marcus Wilson's atmospheric monitors detected the shield's growing influence on local weather patterns. Storm intensity dropping within the magnetic perimeter. Dr. Anderson, the shield is creating a controlled atmospheric bubble. Dr. Paul Anderson studied the weather modeling displays. The crystal matrix isn't just blocking the storm, it's actively stabilizing atmospheric conditions. This could revolutionize colonial environmental control. Dr. Sterling's particle analysis revealed another development. Atmospheric mineral concentration increasing. The crystal structure is purifying the air. She transmitted the readings to Dr. Wright's environmental station. Filtration efficiency 200% above Shellyak baseline requirements, Wright confirmed, analyzing the data. The facility has evolved beyond our most advanced life support systems. The quantum capacitors hummed at a steady frequency as the crystal matrix channeled power through its growing network of electromagnetic pathways. Anderson monitored the energy distribution carefully, watching as the facility maintained perfect stability despite the increasing complexity of its operations. Davidson's transformed power grid adapted seamlessly to the new electromagnetic environment, specialized transformers maintaining stable current flow to colonial systems. The facility's influence continued to expand, its crystalline architecture evolving to meet both human and Shellyak requirements with unprecedented efficiency. Thompson documented each new development in Sella's recovery as the child's neural patterns strengthened, perfectly synchronized with the living crystal structure that had grown around her. The medical implications stretched far beyond their current understanding of xenobiological compatibility. Through the reinforced observation windows, the Martian storm raged against the invisible barrier of the magnetic shield, its fury dissipating harmlessly against the facility's natural defenses. Within the protected zone, humans and Shellyak worked together, adapting their technology and understanding to the remarkable transformation taking place around them. Through the observation windows, Dr. Reynolds's eyes widened as his geophysical instruments detected an unprecedented reading. Commander Stevens, the magnetic shield is interfacing with Mars's dormant field nodes. The facility's influence radiated outward through the Martian crust, activating long-silent electromagnetic channels. Reynolds adjusted his scanning equipment, mapping the spreading network of energy pathways. These readings indicate reactivation of the planet's natural magnetic conduits. Dr. Marcus Blackwood stepped through the airlock, his specialized field analysis equipment already active. I detected the harmonic signature from orbital approach. The crystal matrix appears to be amplifying the planetary field. The crystalline structures pulsed with new energy as they absorbed trace elements from the mineral-rich atmosphere. Dr. Trevor Phillips connected his materials scanner to an exposed crystal formation. These hybrid structures are self-assembling into advanced electromagnetic conductors. The molecular integration exceeds both human and Shellyak specifications. Warning indicators flashed across the quantum capacitor monitoring stations as energy from the reactivating magnetic nodes flooded the power grid. Dr. Howard Mitchell accessed the emergency controls, implementing fusion containment protocols. Anderson, prepare for power regulation adjustment. Mitchell's team wheeled in experimental regulatory units, connecting them to critical power junctions. The modified system stabilized the energy flow, maintaining the delicate balance required for Sella's treatment. In the medical center, Dr. Winters monitored unprecedented spikes in neural activity. Dr. Foster, her regeneration rate just doubled. Dr. Benjamin Foster connected his specialized neural mapping equipment. The expanded electromagnetic field is amplifying the healing process. His instruments track the complex interaction between Sella's neural patterns and the facility's crystal matrix. Her neural signature actually reinforces the structural stability. General Robert Anderson strode into the command center, followed by Colonel James Warren. Dr. Reynolds, transmit your shield analysis to the Colonel's station. We need complete documentation of these defensive capabilities. Warren studied the electromagnetic field data. The hybrid shielding technology could revolutionize colonial defense systems. Cooper, what's the status of transport operations within the field? Supply routes require modification, Cooper reported. Major Warren, we need your logistics expertise for large-scale implementation. Major David Warren accessed the transport network controls, uploading new guidance protocols. Will establish protected corridors using the shield's harmonic frequencies. The facility's atmospheric processors hummed at a higher pitch as the crystal structures began synthesizing complex compounds. Dr. Thomas Walker examined the material analysis. The hybrid system is manufacturing Shellyak-compatible atmospheric elements at unprecedented efficiency. Dr. Phillips collected samples from the newest crystal formations. These structures could advance neural regeneration technology by decades. The medical applications alone. Reynolds's instruments detected a shift in the planetary magnetic field strength. The node activation is stabilizing, but these energy levels. He transmitted the data to Mitchell's station. We need additional containment measures for the enhanced power flow. Mitchell adjusted the regulatory systems, implementing secondary containment field. Foster, maintain monitoring of Sella's neural interface. Any variance could affect the entire network. The crystal matrix pulsed with steady energy as the facility's systems adapted to the new equilibrium. Through it all, Sella's neural patterns remained perfectly synchronized with the expanding field. Her recovery, now inexorably linked to the transformation reshaping the Martian environment around them. Reynolds's monitoring equipment emitted a high-pitched alert. The geophysicist leaned forward, adjusting display parameters as new data streams flooded his screens. Commander Stevens, the magnetic node activation is spreading across the northern hemisphere. He transmitted the readings to the command center's main display. Red indicators trace the expanding network of reactivated magnetic pathways through Mars's crust. Stevens studied the patterns, noting their increasing stability. Dr. Victor Hawthorne, incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. The weathered face of Earth's leading planetary field specialist appeared on the main screen. Those readings caught my attention. I'm viewing your data now. Hawthorne's eyes darted across his own displays. The crystal network achieved what my team couldn't accomplish in 20 years of targeted engineering. Colonial Communications Director Mark Stevens burst through the door. We're losing contact with northern outposts. The magnetic fluctuations are disrupting standard frequencies. His fingers flew across the emergency communications panel, implementing contingency protocols. Routing channels through modified Shellyak transmitters, he announced, connecting specialized crystal-based equipment. The static-filled channels cleared instantly. Signal strength increased by 300%. The crystal formations are amplifying our transmission capability. In the materials lab, Dr. James Porter analyzed samples from the facility's newest structural growths. These hybrid matrices incorporate atmospheric minerals at the molecular level. He transmitted electron microscope imagery to engineering core headquarters. Tensile strength exceeds titanium alloy standards while maintaining perfect electromagnetic conductivity. Dr. Winters's voice crackled through the intercom. Medical team, priority alert. The monitoring equipment surrounding Sella displayed unprecedented neural activity patterns. New synaptic pathways forming throughout her central nervous system. Dr. Robert Nash stepped through the medical bay doors, his xenoneurological scanning equipment already active. The human treatment protocols combined with Mars's electromagnetic environment triggered accelerated neural development. He studied the readings intently. These pathways suggest capabilities beyond standard Shellyak neural architecture. Warning klaxons blared through the power distribution center. Dr. Thomas Reed accessed the quantum capacitor controls as energy surged through the crystalline network. The array is drawing power directly from the planetary field. He initiated emergency modifications, implementing a revolutionary distribution system based on the crystal's natural conductivity patterns. Supply Route 7 restored, Cooper reported through the transport network. The magnetic shield corridors are stable. His transport sled glided smoothly through the protected pathway, guided by the hybrid navigation system. Michael Warren coordinated from the logistics center, mapping an expanding network of magnetically shielded supply routes. These corridors could connect every major colonial installation. Cooper, begin testing high-capacity cargo configurations. Dr. William Morgan's atmospheric sensors detected an anomaly within the magnetic shield perimeter. Atmospheric density increasing by 2%. He transmitted the data to Dr. Henry Davidson's terraforming station. The shield network is concentrating the atmosphere. Davidson analyzed the atmospheric retention patterns. These readings match theoretical models of Mars's ancient magnetic field. His instruments tracked the growing bubble of stabilized atmosphere. The facility isn't just creating a local shield, it's reestablishing planetary atmospheric containment. Reed's power distribution network hummed with increasing efficiency as it channeled energy through the crystalline pathways. Each pulse strengthened Mars's recovering magnetic field while powering colonial systems. The facility's influence continued to expand, its hybrid technologies reshaping the planet's environment with every passing moment. Through the observation windows, the Martian sky took on a deeper red hue as the magnetic shield trapped and concentrated the thin atmosphere. Nash documented Sella's unprecedented neural development while Porter collected samples of the evolving crystal structures. In the command center, Reynolds and Hawthorne analyzed the spreading network of reactivated magnetic nodes, mapping the transformation of an entire world. Planet's transformation. A sharp beep from Reynolds's monitoring station shattered the moment of observation. Commander Stevens, magnetic node activation just surpassed 60% planetary coverage. Reynolds adjusted his scanning arrays, verifying the data streams. The expansion rate exceeds all theoretical models. The command center doors slid open as Planetary Defense Chief General Marcus Stone strode in, his uniform bearing the dust of rapid transit from Olympus Base. Status report, Dr. Reynolds. Those readings triggered every alert system between here and Hellas Basin. Reynolds transmitted the latest field maps to the central display. Stone studied the spreading network of magnetic pathways, his expression tightening as he noted the pattern's intensity. The field could stabilize the atmosphere, Stone said, but these energy levels. He accessed the defense network's analytical systems. One fluctuation could trigger planet-wide electromagnetic storms. In the geological analysis lab, Dr. Thomas writes mining sensors detected an anomaly in the crystal growth patterns. The structures are tapping into deep iron deposits. He transmitted electron microscope imagery to the materials science team. They're incorporating ferromagnetic elements at the molecular level. Dr. James Blackburn burst through the lab doors, his specialized field instruments already active. The integration pattern matches ancient field lines preserved in the bedrock. His eyes darted between multiple data streams. This could be our key to permanent field restoration. The medical bay's monitoring equipment emitted a warning tone. Dr. Winters rushed to Sella's bedside as neighboring diagnostic systems flickered and stabilized at higher efficiency levels. Her neural patterns are affecting our equipment, Winters announced through the emergency channel. Dr. Richard Hayes entered the medical bay, carrying modified control units. Install these stabilizers, Hayes ordered, distributing specialized components to the medical team. They're calibrated to function within her electromagnetic influence. The new equipment synced perfectly with Sella's neural frequency, operating at unprecedented levels of precision. Warning klaxons blared through the power distribution center. Dr. Michael Foster connected his experimental containment units to the quantum capacitor array, racing against surging energy levels from Mars's reactivating field. Initiating mercuricless containment protocols, Foster announced, his fingers flying across multiple control interfaces. Synchronizing with Sella's treatment cycles. Now. The power flow stabilized, channeled through crystalline pathways designed for solar storms. Master Sergeant Cooper's voice crackled through the transport network, testing expanded cargo capacity. His modified hover transport glided smoothly through the magnetic corridor, carrying twice its rated mass. Dr. Paul Anderson monitored the transport telemetry from Colonial Resources. The field network supports heavy cargo operations. He transmitted the performance data to Dr. Robert Maxwell's station. We can establish planet-wide magnetic levitation routes. Maxwell integrated the new transport protocols into Mars's infrastructure grid, implementing automated guidance systems. Cooper, begin plotting primary cargo corridors. Dr. William Turner's atmospheric sensors tracked growing pockets of concentrated gases, pressure increasing in stabilized zones. He transmitted urgent data to environmental systems. Dr. Reed, we need immediate atmospheric processing. Reed activated emergency protocols, managing the pressure differentials while maintaining optimal conditions in Sella's treatment zone. The facility's processors hummed at maximum capacity, balancing the transforming atmosphere. Colonial Administrator Marshall coordinated from the Central Command Station, directing resources between technical teams as they worked to stabilize Mars's rapidly evolving systems. Dr. Foster, prioritize power distribution to atmospheric processing. Dr. Wright, continue monitoring crystal integration patterns. A priority transmission cut through all channels. Facility Command, this is Dr. Marcus Warren, Interplanetary Research Director, requesting immediate clearance for orbital descent. Earth's Scientific Council requires direct observation of your hybrid technology integration. Marshall exchanged glances with General Stone. The facility's influence continued to spread through Mars's crust, rewriting the planet's electromagnetic nature with every passing moment. Through the observation windows, the stabilized atmosphere took on a deeper crimson hue, while beneath the surface, crystals merged with ancient iron deposits, creating pathways that would reshape their understanding of planetary engineering. Through the facility's observation windows, Warren's shuttle descended through the deepening crimson atmosphere. Before Marshall could respond to the transmission, Reynolds's monitoring station erupted with urgent alerts. Magnetic node coverage just hit 85%, Reynolds announced, his fingers racing across multiple displays. The expansion rate, his voice cut off as pressure alarms blared through emergency channels. Northern Outpost 6 reporting critical pressure variations, Communications Officer Stevens called out. Similar alerts incoming from a Cydalia base and Utopia colony. Marshall straightened, accessing the facility's master control systems. Implementing Crisis Protocol Alpha 7. He transmitted authorization codes through the command network. This facility is now primary control center for all magnetic field operations. Routing emergency protocols to your station, General Stone confirmed, establishing secure links with Colonial Defense Systems. Dr. Victor Randall stepped through the airlock, his specialized field equipment already active. Earth's leading expert in artificial magnetosphere design moved directly to the crystal analysis station. "Show me the frequency responses," Randall ordered, studying the crystalline formations. He adjusted several monitoring parameters. Their specific electromagnetic patterns trigger controlled growth cycles. In the medical bay, Sella's neural activity spiked. Multiple crystal nodes across the planet pulsed in perfect synchronization with her brainwave patterns. Neural interface expanding beyond facility boundaries, Dr. Winters reported. The medical equipment surrounding Sella operated with unprecedented precision, guided by her unconscious commands. Dr. James Harrison burst through the medical bay doors, carrying prototype neural integration gear. These patterns match theoretical models for human celiac synaptic convergence. He connected specialized monitoring equipment to Sella's life support systems. She's not just interfacing with the crystalses controlling them. The facility's power core surged as quantum capacitors channeled massive energy flows from the planetary network. Warning lights flashed across Dr. Reed's engineering station. Implementing Jupiter-class containment protocols, Reed announced. He activated experimental fusion regulators, originally designed for gas giant research. The power system stabilized, creating new distribution pathways through the crystalline grid. Through protected supply corridors, Cooper's modified transport sled carried critical materials to affected colonies. Dr. Anderson's voice came through the logistics channel, converting emergency routes to permanent maglev infrastructure. Cooper, begin installing guidance systems at 10-kilometer intervals. Acknowledged, Cooper responded, deploying automated construction units. First section of track laid, testing magnetic levitation systems. Dr. Phillips's materials lab detected a critical change in crystal behavior, self-replicating nodes forming at magnetic junctions. He transmitted electron microscope imagery to the command center. The structures are processing atmospheric gases. Dr. Foster accessed atmospheric containment controls, oxygen levels rising within shield perimeter. His instruments tracked expanding pockets of breathable air, implementing emergency stabilization protocols. Colonel Walsh's defense scanners registered unprecedented changes in the magnetic shield's performance. Solar radiation deflection exceeding Earth baseline by 40%. He transmitted the analysis to General Stone. The hybrid shield matrix provides superior planetary protection. Sella's neural patterns fluctuated, sending ripples through the planetary network. Harrison adjusted containment parameters as her influence expanded. Neural activity stabilizing field fluctuations, Harrison reported. Her biological control systems outperform our artificial regulators by several orders of magnitude. Marshall coordinated between technical teams, balancing Sella's treatment requirements against the planet's rapid transformation. The facility hummed with increasing power as Earth's Scientific Council prepared for emergency consultation. Through the reinforced windows, the Martian sky continued to deepen, while beneath the surface, crystal formations reshaped the planet's electromagnetic nature with every passing moment. Incoming transmission from Phobos Observatory, Stevens announced. They're detecting changes in Mars's magnetic field signature from orbit. Orbit. Stevens adjusted the communications array. The magnetic signature exceeds Earth normal parameters by 100% coverage achieved, Reynolds interrupted, his instruments lighting up with cascading data streams. The node network spans the entire planet. In the medical bay, Sella's neural monitors registered unprecedented activity. Dr. Winters activated specialized scanning equipment as crystalline formations throughout the facility pulsed in sync with her brainwave patterns. Neural regeneration approaching 90%, Winters announced through the facility channel. The recovery rate exceeds all previous Shellyak medical data. Dr. Foster burst into the command center, atmospheric analysis results displayed across his tablet. We have a stable oxygen layer forming within the shield matrix. He transferred the data to the main display. The crystal network is processing atmospheric gases at 20 times the projected rate. The facility doors opened as Mars terraforming director Dr. Jonathan Blake strode in, already issuing commands through his neural interface, initiating atmospheric containment protocols. He accessed the environmental control systems. We need to stabilize these gas pockets before they dissipate. A surge of energy rippled through the facility's power grid. Dr. Alexander Wright's fingers flew across the quantum control interface, redirecting massive power flows through newly established distribution channels. The magnetic field is feeding directly into our capacitor network, Wright reported, implementing continental power distribution through the northern colonial grid. Through the observation windows, lines of light traced across the Martian surface as power flowed through crystalline conduits. Colonial outposts across the northern hemisphere reported unprecedented energy levels. Dr. Christopher Barnes entered the medical bay, specialized neural imaging equipment already active. These recovery patterns are extraordinary. He studied Sella's neural scans. Her synaptic architecture has evolved beyond baseline Shellyak parameters. The geological monitoring station erupted with alerts. Dr. Marcus Henderson activated deep scanning arrays as crystalline formations spread through Mars's major fault lines. Self-replicating nodes detected at tectonic boundaries, Henderson announced. The structures are stabilizing crustal movement while amplifying the planetary field. Master Sergeant Cooper's voice came through the transport network. Maglev Corridor 7 online. His transport sled glided through the magnetic tunnel at unprecedented speed, establishing automated guidance systems for the equatorial route. Dr. William Parker coordinated from Colonial Transportation, mapping the expanding transit network, converting emergency corridors to permanent infrastructure. The field stability supports planet-wide rapid transit implementation. General Richard Stanford's shuttle descended through the strengthened magnetic shield, his defense sensors analyzing the enhanced radiation protection. The facility's observation deck provided a clear view as the Martian sky deepened to a rich crimson, stable atmosphere gathering within the hybrid shield matrix. Colonial Administrator Marshall activated the facility's primary communication array, initiating emergency consultation with Earth's Planetary Council. He transmitted authorization codes through the secure channel. This facility is now designated as Mars's primary transformation control center. Through reinforced windows, crystal formations pulsed with planetary energy as Sella's neural patterns guided the integration of human and Shellyak technology, reshaping an entire world with each passing moment. The quantum capacitor network hummed with power drawn directly from Mars's strengthening magnetic field, while in the medical bay, Sella's recovery continued to exceed all known parameters for neural regeneration. Neural regeneration complete, Dr. Winters announced, analyzing the latest scan results. But these patterns he adjusted the neural imaging display, revealing unprecedented synaptic structures. Dr. Mark Thompson stepped forward, his xenobiology instruments already mapping Sella's evolved neural architecture. Her brain has adapted beyond standard celiac parameters. He transmitted the data to the medical team's secure network. These new pathways appear optimized for Mars's electromagnetic environment. Through the facility's reinforced windows, the first clouds in Mars's modern history gathered beneath the crimson sky. Dr. Michael Lawrence burst into the command center, atmospheric data streaming across his tablets. Water vapor accumulating at stabilized magnetic nodes, Lawrence reported, accessing the environmental control systems. The field is drawing moisture from the polar caps. His fingers flew across the controls, implementing emergency distribution protocols, establishing containment zones to prevent uncontrolled dispersal. Reynolds's monitoring station lit up with cascading data streams. Magnetic field achieving self-regulation through the crystal network. He transmitted the readings to Marshall's command console, the system stabilizing faster than our models predicted. The facility's power core surged as excess energy flowed through the quantum capacitor network. Dr. Robert Nash analyzed the readings from the Energy Distribution Center. The stabilized field is generating surplus power, Nash announced, routing the excess through colonial power grids, enough to support continental-scale atmospheric processing. Colonel James Hartley's security feed displayed unauthorized settlement attempts spreading across the newly habitable zones, implementing containment protocols in sectors 7 through 12. He dispatched rapid response teams to critical areas. Dr. Weber, we need those population management procedures. Dr. Thomas Weber coordinated from population control, mapping settlement patterns across the expanding habitable regions, establishing controlled migration corridors. He transmitted updated protocols to colonial security teams, prioritizing essential personnel and support infrastructure. A priority alert cut through the command channels as Dr. Henry Davidson's geological survey team detected critical changes in Mars's crustal structure. The crystal formations are integrating with tectonic boundaries, Davidson reported, transmitting deep-scan imagery. They're not just stabilizing the plates, they are strengthening them. He adjusted the scanning parameters. Dr. Murray, confirming geothermal energy channeling to surface nodes. Dr. Charles Murray's specialized instruments tracked energy flows through the planetary crust, establishing monitoring stations at major fault lines. He coordinated with the geological team. The crystal network is creating stable pathways for core thermal distribution. Master Sergeant Cooper's voice came through the transport network, new magnetic corridor supporting heavy vessel transit. His enhanced transport sled carried critical supplies through the strengthened field lines, testing automated guidance systems for expanded cargo capacity. Dr. Brian Mitchell entered the command center, aerospace calculations displayed across his neural interface. The stable corridors can support orbital transport integration. He accessed the Colonial Fleet's navigation systems. Admiral Peterson, transmitting specifications for surface at orbit lane establishment. In the medical bay, Sella's enhanced neural patterns pulsed in harmony with the planetary network. Dr. Winters and Dr. Thompson monitored her adaptation while maintaining optimal treatment conditions. Her synaptic evolution appears deliberate, Thompson noted, studying the biological data. Each change corresponds to specific environmental parameters. Dr. William Foster's shuttle docked at the facility's main port. The Interplanetary Development Director moved directly to the Power Distribution Center, analyzing the quantum capacitor network's performance. The surplus energy could support full colonial expansion, Foster observed, reviewing Nash's power calculations. We need to establish dedicated channels for new settlement zones. Colonial Administrator Marshall coordinated between technical teams as the facility balanced its dual roles. Through the observation windows, clouds continued to gather in the transformed Martian sky, while beneath the surface, crystal formations channeled planetary energy through stabilized pathways. The facility's systems hummed with increasing power as Mars's transformation accelerated beyond projected timelines. In the medical bay, Sella's enhanced neural architecture continued to evolve, adapting to the planet's new electromagnetic nature with each passing moment. The facility's monitoring systems registered a sudden shift in neural patterns. Dr. Winters's eyes widened as he analyzed the incoming data streams. Neural regeneration complete, he announced, adjusting the scanning parameters. The integration rate exceeded our highest projections. Dr. Marcus Coleman rushed to the medical bay, neural interface equipment already active. He studied the complex web of synaptic connections displayed across his specialized monitoring array. These adaptations, Coleman accessed detailed neural mapping data. Her brain architecture has optimized itself for direct interaction with Mars's electromagnetic field. Through the observation windows, the crystalline networks pulsed with increasing intensity. Dr. Richard Bennett burst into the medical center, his tablet displaying critical correlation data between Sella's neural patterns and the planet's magnetic stability. The field harmonics are synchronized with her neural frequency, Bennett reported. She's become a living component of the planetary network. Coleman's fingers flew across the neural interface controls, initiating automated system protocols. He established new data pathways through the facility's quantum processors. We need to transition field control without disrupting the stabilization matrix. In the atmospheric monitoring station, Dr. Thomas Lawrence tracked the rapid expansion of processing nodes. Holographic displays showed crystalline formations clustering at major geological junctions, creating expanding pockets of breathable atmosphere. Containment systems at maximum capacity, Lawrence transmitted through the facility network. The environmental control interfaces lit up with cascading warning indicators. Dr. James Wilson activated emergency atmospheric regulators, implementing modified Shellyak containment fields. His hands moved across the environmental controls, adjusting pressure gradients and gas distribution parameters, stabilizing atmosphere density at critical nodes. The facility's power core surged as the quantum capacitor network exceeded designed operational limits. Dr. Robert Mitchell diverted massive energy flows through newly established distribution channels. Power generation at 300% of projected capacity, Mitchell announced. He transmitted the readings to Marshall's command console. The excess energy. Dr. Carter, confirming subsurface water detection. Dr. William Carter coordinated from the Geological Monitoring Station. Underground aquifer networks located. He activated deep scanning arrays. The crystal formations are creating natural distribution pathways. Master Sergeant Cooper's voice cut through the facility channel, establishing protected corridors in sectors 12 through 15. His transport teams moved supplies through the expanding network of habitable zones. Dr. Anderson's construction units are deploying permanent infrastructure. Dr. Paul Anderson's engineering drones spread across the Martian surface, converting temporary shelters into permanent colonial structures. Installation teams active at primary nodes. He coordinated with Cooper's logistics network, preparing foundation systems for major population centers. Deep beneath the surface, the planetary monitoring station detected critical changes in Mars's core dynamics. Dr. Charles Murray analyzed the incoming data streams. his specialized instruments tracking energy patterns through the planet's internal structure. Core rotation stabilizing, Murray reported. The crystal network is strengthening Mars's natural magnetic dynamo. He transmitted the analysis to colonial administration. Internal field generation approaching sustainable levels. Colonial Administrator Marshall accessed the facility's primary systems, converting emergency protocols to standard operations. He established new command hierarchies through the colonial network. This facility is now designated as Mars's primary transformation control center. In the medical bay, Sella's neural patterns pulsed in harmony with the planetary field. Dr. Coleman monitored the automated systems as they gradually assumed control of critical network functions. Neural load decreasing, Coleman reported, transitioning field management to quantum regulators while maintaining stability parameters. The Martian sky deepened to rich crimson as expanding atmospheric layers gathered within the enhanced magnetic shield. Through the facility's reinforced windows, clouds formed and dispersed in complex patterns, while crystal formations continued their measured spread across the planet's surface. Establishing ever-expanding networks of breathable atmosphere. Dr. Winters adjusted the final medical scan parameters, documenting the completion of Sella's neural regeneration. Neural patterns stable across all frequencies. Dr. Winters transmitted the data through the medical network, beginning systematic reduction of life support systems. Dr. Alexander Fraser stepped through the medical bay entrance, neural scanning equipment already active. The Mars Colonial Medical Institute director accessed Sella's complete medical history through his specialized interface. These adaptation rates exceed theoretical limits, Fraser noted, analyzing the enhanced neural architecture. The combination of human medical protocols with Shellyak biology created unprecedented evolutionary advantages. The facility's alert system activated as environmental systems registered critical changes in crystal formation patterns. Dr. Lawrence accessed the atmospheric monitoring station, tracking geometric reorganization across the surface network. New habitable zones forming at triple projected rates, Lawrence transmitted through command channels. Establishing emergency monitoring stations at junction points Alpha through Delta, Master Sergeant Cooper's teams deployed containment units along the expanding atmospheric boundaries. Barrier systems active in sectors 15 through 18, Cooper reported. Dr. Weber, detecting unauthorized settlement attempts near stabilized regions. Dr. Weber's population management displays lit up with movement patterns. Settlement attempts increased 300% in the past hour. He coordinated with Colonial Security. Colonel Hartley, transmitting critical checkpoint locations. Colonel Hartley's security teams established barrier positions around newly habitable zones. Checkpoint network active, Hartley confirmed. Implementing access protocols for all incoming colonial traffic. Dr. Mitchell's power management station registered a breakthrough in magnetic field control, successfully transferred 30% of field management to automated systems, Mitchell announced. Dr. Watson, confirming stability across all channels. Dr. Harold Watson activated the phase transition protocols, gradually shifting planetary network control from Sella's neural influence to quantum regulators. Transition sequence proceeding within parameters, Watson reported, maintaining field integrity through automated backup systems. The Geological Survey Station detected new activity in the crystalline formations. Senior geologist Dr. Victor Hammond analyzed deep-scan data showing extensive root systems spreading through Mars's crust. The crystal networks are tapping directly into geothermal energy, Hammond transmitted through the facility channel. These structures form self-sustaining heat distribution pathways. He adjusted the scanning resolution. Surface temperature normalization accelerated by approximately 4 decades. Colonial Administrator Marshall coordinated between technical teams as the facility's role evolved. Initiating Phase 1 of long-term rehabilitation protocols, Marshall announced through the command network. This facility now serves as primary transformation control center. Dr. Fraser continued his analysis of Sella's adaptation in the medical bay. These neural modifications could revolutionize human colonization efforts, Fraser noted, documenting specific evolutionary advantages. Her brain architecture provides a template for accelerated planetary adaptation. The Power Distribution Center registered increasing stability as automated systems assumed more control. Dr. Watson monitored the transition protocols while maintaining constant communication with Mitchell's team. Neural load reduction proceeding at optimal rates, Watson confirmed. Establishing dedicated processor networks for field management. Through the facility's observation windows, new geometric patterns spread across the Martian surface as crystal formations reorganized into more efficient configurations. Dr. Lawrence's atmospheric monitoring stations tracked the rapid expansion of breathable zones. Atmospheric containment holding at critical junctions, Lawrence reported. Cooper's teams are successfully managing the perimeter barriers. Colonel Hartley's security feeds displayed increasing colonial movement near the stabilized regions. Checkpoint stations reporting heavy traffic at all access points, Hartley transmitted. Dr. Weber's protocols are maintaining organized flow through approved corridors. The facility's systems hummed with steady power as Mars's transformation accelerated beyond original projections. In the medical bay, Sella's neural patterns maintained harmony with the planetary network while gradually transferring control to automated systems. Dr. Fraser documented each stage of her adaptation, gathering critical data for future colonization efforts. Dr. Fraser's documentation of Sella's adaptation yielded an unexpected breakthrough as the medical monitoring systems registered complete neural independence. Dr. Winters verified the readings through multiple diagnostic channels. Life support separation achieved, Dr. Winters announced, deactivating the final medical support arrays. Neural patterns maintaining stability without artificial assistance. Dr. Victor Martinez entered the control center, his engineering interfaces displaying real-time data from the planetary network. Power separation protocols initiated. His team activated specialized monitoring equipment throughout the crystalline formations, beginning staged reduction of neural interface connections. The facility's quantum processors hummed as Dr. Thomas Reed's automated systems assumed increasing control of Mars's magnetic field. Automated regulators now managing 7 to 5% of field maintenance, Reed transmitted through the command channel. Crystal network stability confirmed across all sectors. Through the observation windows, dark clouds gathered in the crimson sky. Dr. Lawrence's atmospheric monitoring stations lit up with urgent data streams. Detecting unprecedented water vapor concentrations, Lawrence accessed the environmental control interfaces. Dr. Wilson, we need immediate precipitation management protocols. Dr. Paul Wilson's weather control systems activated, tracking complex atmospheric patterns. Establishing control parameters for emerging water cycle. His specialized equipment deployed across the habitable zones. First recorded Martian rainfall expected within 6 hours. In the agricultural monitoring station, Dr. James Cooper analyzed rapid changes in surface conditions. The crystal network is creating perfect pH balance in stabilized regions. He transmitted data to Marshall's command console. Vegetation growth rates exceed all projections. Implementing agricultural containment measures, Cooper coordinated with his field teams. Establishing controlled farming zones in sectors 20 through 25. Dr. Mitchell's engineering displays showed power integration completing across the first permanent colonial grid. City power systems online, Mitchell confirmed. Dr. Anderson, infrastructure connections ready for activation. Dr. Robert Anderson's urban development interfaces lit up with spreading network patterns. Essential services integrating with crystal power distribution. He coordinated with Cooper's logistics teams, establishing standardized protocols for future settlement grids. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Winters and Dr. Mark Thompson prepared final release documentation. Neural adaptation complete. Winters verified Sella's medical status. No complications detected during power separation. Integration protocols prepared. Thompson activated colonial registration systems, establishing resident status within primary settlement zone. The Geological Survey Station detected new activity patterns through deep scanning arrays. Dr. William Hayes analyzed complex water distribution networks forming beneath the surface. The crystal formations are following ancient riverbed patterns. Hayes transmitted through the facility channel. Natural aquifer systems forming at all major junctions. His specialized instruments tracked spreading moisture patterns through Mars's crust. Water table stabilization accelerated by approximately 3 centuries. Colonial Administrator Marshall coordinated with Earth's Planetary Council through quantum communication arrays. Initiating approved settlement protocols, Marshall established new colonial access parameters. Dr. Weber transmitting updated population distribution guidelines. The facility's systems adjusted as automated regulators continued assuming control of planetary functions. Through the medical bay windows, Sella observed the gathering storm clouds while Dr. Thompson finalized her resident documentation. Your neural connection to the planetary network will maintain minimal contact, Thompson explained, activating her colonial registration. The automated systems will preserve field stability while allowing your complete independence. Dr. Martinez's engineering team monitored the power separation process through specialized diagnostic equipment. Neural interface reduction proceeding at optimal rates, Martinez reported. Crystal network maintaining full operational stability. Rain began falling across the primary settlement zone as Dr. Wilson's weather control systems established precise precipitation patterns. Dr. Lawrence coordinated atmospheric monitoring through expanding sensor arrays. Storm systems forming within acceptable parameters, Lawrence transmitted through environmental control channels. Maintaining surveillance on all weather formation patterns. Master Sergeant Cooper's transport networks expanded to support growing colonial traffic between emerging population centers. Supply lines active through all stabilized regions, Cooper reported. Dr. Anderson's infrastructure teams are implementing permanent route markers. The facility's role evolved as Mars's transformation accelerated beyond original timelines. Through the reinforced windows, crystal formations pulsed with steady energy while rain fell from darkening skies, marking the beginning of the planet's new era. Dr. Sarah Winters reviewed the final neural scans on her medical display, each indicator confirming what the team had worked so hard to achieve. She turned to Sella, who sat calmly on the examination bed. Your neural patterns show complete stability, Winters said, deactivating the diagnostic array. No further medical support required. She accessed a secured data folder on her console, bringing up adoption documentation she had prepared weeks in advance. The facility's main chamber transformed under Colonial Administrator Marshall's direction. Engineering teams installed ceremonial lighting while environmental systems adjusted atmospheric mix for both human and Shellyak comfort. Dr. Reynolds supervised placement of crystalline accents that pulsed in harmony with Mars's stabilized magnetic field. Master Sergeant Cooper directed his transport teams to establish priority lanes for incoming diplomatic vessels. Shellyak delegation approaching through Northern Corridor, Cooper transmitted. Human government representatives entering from southern approach. Dr. Mitchell's engineering station displayed the final power transfer readings. Automated systems now maintaining full planetary control, Mitchell announced. Crystal network operating at peak efficiency. The displays showed Sella's neural patterns, independent yet synchronized with Mars's magnetic rhythm. Dr. Rebecca Thompson entered the ceremonial hall carrying official documentation. First registered human Shellyak adoption, Thompson said, organizing the legal interfaces. Both governments have approved all protocols. Rain fell steadily outside as Dr. Anderson's construction crews completed final adjustments to New Harmony District's environmental systems. The residential complex incorporated crystalline architecture with traditional human design elements, creating living spaces that served both species' needs. Sella stood at the ceremony podium, her voice clear in both languages. "The healing we achieved extends beyond medical recovery," she said, gesturing to the transformed Martian landscape visible through the observation windows. "We discovered new forms of connection." Dr. Winters approached holding a silver pendant. Crystal fragments from the medical facility had been carefully integrated into its surface, catching light in complex patterns. "This belonged to my mother," Winters said, securing it around Sella's neck. "Now it carries pieces of where we found each other." Dr. Margaret Warren activated the facility's new educational interfaces. "The Winters-Sella Institute begins operations immediately," Warren announced, as medical research stations powered up throughout the complex, establishing new protocols for interspecies treatment methodology. The Weather Control Center registered the first completely natural storm system forming over New Harmony District. Sella and Winters watched from their residential observation deck as rain nourished the district's gardens. Master Sergeant Cooper arrived, presenting a Transport Corps insignia modified with crystalline elements. "For exceptional service to Mars's infrastructure development," Cooper said, attaching the insignia to Sella's collar. Evening light filtered through crystal formations as Winters and Sella prepared their first meal in their new home. The dining room's panoramic windows revealed Mars's transformed surface-stable atmosphere swirling with clouds, patches of vegetation spreading across red soil, and pools in crystal networks extending to the horizon. The deactivated medical alert beacon held a prominent place on their wall, its dark display a reminder of crisis transformed into connection. Winters raised her glass, but before she could speak, Sella reached across the table and took her hand. "Mother," Sella said, the word carrying equal weight in both languages. Crystal formations across the planet's surface pulsed in response, a harmonic resonance of completed transformation. Dr. Reed's power management station registered the synchronized patterns. Neural harmony achieved across all sectors, Reed transmitted through the facility channel. Planetary systems maintaining optimal stability. Through the window, new storm clouds gathered in the deepening dusk. Dr. Lawrence's atmospheric monitoring equipment tracked multiple weather systems developing naturally across the habitable zones. The facility's role evolved as Mars established its own rhythms, guided by automated systems that had learned from Sella's neural pattern.